Hi there, thank you for stopping by. Please check my Patreon for a lot more audiobooks, ranging from fictions, NSFW, and fantasy light novels. Your support keeps us going. Link in description below. Thank you again, and I hope you enjoy the book. Grimgar of Fantasy and Ash, Volume 6. 1/4 of one day. Huff. Huh. Huff. Huh. Haruhiro ran. He dashed, panting. He glanced behind him. There, chasing after him. They were wearing large white sheets with a single eye hole cut out of them. Well, it was something like a long poncho. They had a torso, a head, and 2 arms and legs. It would have been fair to say that their physique was remarkably similar to a human's. Just, there was only one eye peeking out from their eye hole. It was never just one of those white-sheeted things. There were always several of them. He didn't need to bother counting. He already knew the number. 6 of them. 5 carrying spears, and then another carrying a sword and shield. The spears were unremarkable aside from their white poles, but each sword had a slightly purplish luster to it, and each shield looked almost like a mirror. Their swords had, for some reason, been given the name Lightning Sword Dolphin, and the shields were called mirror shields based on their appearance. Someone had started calling them, well, no, not someone, it was those guys who'd started calling them it, cultists. The spear bearers were standard cultists, all of which they had nicknamed Panzook. The sword bearer was an elite cultist, for which they used the nickname Tori-san. Those names had stuck. Damn, I'm tired, Haruhiro muttered. Even as he grumbled, Haruhiro kept running without letting up. If he didn't keep running at full tilt, the Pansukis and Tori-san would catch him. If that happened, Haruhiro was a mere thief. He'd be ganged up on and almost certainly killed in an instant. So, he had to run. Run away, he thought. For now, just run. Run like mad. It's the only option. Beneath a sky with deep blue, a slightly reddish blue, purple, orange, yellow, red, and all the colors in between scattered across it, he raced as hard as he could through the white town. A town! Yes! This was a town, or at the very least something of that variety. On either side of the roads paved with white stone, there were box-like buildings made, unsurprisingly, of white stone. No miraculous convergence of coincidences would ever have created something like this naturally. It was clear that someone, some intelligent beings, had created them. Ugh. Enough! Haruhiro shouted. Sweat got into his right eye and stung. He got an urge to look back again, but he resisted it. Without doing anything unnecessary, he ran. With one eye closed, he ran. Huh. 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 It's that corner. Turn there. He practically dove left around the corner, then kept running down the slightly narrow path. The footsteps of the cultists were closing in on him. His stomach hurt as if it was being squeezed tight. Haruhiro yelled as loudly as possible. Or rather, he couldn't stop himself from shouting, and his voice came out on its own. His upper body was so upright that he felt like it might bend over backwards. He pumped his arms. Pumped them as hard as he could. Should I raise my thighs higher? Will that just tire me out more? Oh, I don't know anymore. It hurts. I should never have gone along with it, this stupid plan. Crown break, Tada shouted. They're here. Finally. They came. Without stopping, Haruhiro turned back to look. From a building off to his right, a man wearing glasses and a priest's uniform had leapt down, attacking the cultists. Tori-san, specifically. The man in priest's clothes had a warhammer that looked stupidly heavy, and he swung it down with a satisfying thud on the cultist Tori-san's head. Tori-san was a pretty high-level swordsman, a cut above the Pansukis, but he hadn't seen this coming at all. He took the full force of the blow. Of course, He wasn't fine after taking a blow to the head from that warhammer. The cultists' ponchos were highly resistant to bladed attacks and could absorb impacts to a certain degree, but that wasn't going to be good enough here. Tori-san collapsed with his head caved in. With their leader suddenly down, the Pansakis panicked. And here rang out a voice that sounded like exactly what you'd expect from a handsome guy. The ambush wasn't done yet. A man who wore armor with a hexagram engraved on it jumped up into the air to follow the man in the priest uniform, Tada. Huh. Haruhiro stopped despite himself. Why? Why did he have to jump up? Couldn't he just drop down? But Haruhiro knew the answer to that question. This was not a man you could apply reason to. He was well aware of that, but he was still appalled. This is where I stylishly finish this. Tokumune, the paladin who led the talkies, flashed his white teeth as he reached the apex of his jump, then plunged downwards. They had managed to get the Pansakis flustered, but he'd wasted it. The Pansakis thrust out their spears towards Tokumune. Ah, crap. That's not good. He's gonna get skewered, thought Haruhiro. Only he didn't. Dance like a panther. Tokumune rotated his entire body along with his sword and shield, knocking the Pansakis' spears aside. And sting like a whale. Stepping on Pansake's head, he kicked off and landed a roundhouse on Pansak B, then landed on the ground and closed one eye. I settled that, huh? Tokumune said, grinning. Well, you haven't gotten run through yet, at least, Haruhiro shot back, making a funny joke. Tada, the man in the priest outfit, slammed his warhammer into Pansuk C's flank and sent him flying. You didn't nail anything. TCH, TCH, TCH. Tokumune calmly clicked his tongue, shaking his head. The battle's already settled, you know? Heh. A middle-aged guy wearing a ponytail, an eye patch, and a tight-fitting leather jumpsuit, a cringeworthy combination, leapt out from an alleyway to bury his single-edged sword in Pansuk D's eye. With hardly any delay, out followed a woman who, judging by her outfit, looked like a mage, but was gigantic in more ways than one and dual-wielded a staff and sword. Her nickname was MS. Giantess. Mimori, also known as Mimirin, first struck Pansuk E in the side of the face with her staff, then, without missing a beat, stabbed her sword through his eye. Good luck, yeah. Kill them all. A petite girl with blonde hair and blue eyes stuck her head out from the alley and cheered them on in a mix of Japanese and English. Anna-san might peek out, but she wouldn't get involved. She was essentially a cheerleader. Yahoo! Let me get in on this too, Kikoa cried. The uncommonly easygoing warrior jumped off the roof, probably imitating Tokumune. It was fine up to the point where he danced in midair and struck a pose. Well, no, it wasn't fine. It was completely pointless. The easygoing warrior Kikoa tried to pounce on Pansuk A, the one whose face Tokumune had landed on and thrown off balance. Or that was what he'd seemed to be going for, but while he was striking a pose, Tada grunted and swung his warhammer. It knocked Pansuk A flying until he slammed into the wall of the building, and Kikoa's bastard sword slashed through nothing but air. Ahaha, Tadachi. You stole my kill, Kikoa cried. Wahahaha, Tokumune shouted. Then a piece of trash jumped onto Pansuk B, which Tokumune had knocked down with his roundhouse kick, but was still trying to get up. Mine, mine, mine. That bloodthirsty piece of trash to end all pieces of trash kicked Pansuk B to the ground, then held him down and went in for the killing blow. For skull hell. Out of the way. Tada kicked the piece of trash out of his way, then mercilessly brought his warhammer down on Pansuk B's head, splattering it all over the inside of his poncho. Nua, the piece of trash known as Ronta, sat down and wailed. Well, at least he's not crying. What the hell? Ronta screamed. I was gonna off that one. You stupid moron. Huh? Tada pressed his left index finger against his blood-stained warhammer. A stupid moron? You calling me that? No, not you, Ranta said. I'm sorry. Seriously, seriously sorry. I didn't mean you, really. No. Forgive me. The piece of trash quickly got down and performed a kowtow. It was just the way it came out, you see. Spur of the moment and all that. I didn't really mean it. Well, good. This time, I'll let it slide. Tada shouldered his warhammer. Next time, I kill you. Why yes, sir. Th, thank you kindly. Ranta stuttered. Is he stupid? Haruhiro wondered, but he also wouldn't put it past Tada to bludgeon Ranta with that warhammer without hesitation. Apologizing was probably the right call. Seriously, the talkies were off the charts in all sorts of ways. Wow, Yum, who had been hiding nearby, came out with her eyes wide. It's already over. Sure was quick, huh? It sure was. Shihoro came out from behind Yum, glancing around. No chance for us to show off. The lanky Kazaka came out from the alley. It was too fast, Mary said with a sigh. She was standing behind Kazaku diagonally. Well, when we go to work, it's just this easy, am I right? Tokumune flashed his all-too-white teeth and gave them a thumbs up. The real fight's just getting started though, right, Haruhiro? Right. Haruhiro kicked Ranta in the backside. Come on, get ready. Ow! Hey, you're just a Haruhiro. How dare you kick? Meow. Yum knocked an arrow. It's coming. Noise. There was a loud noise coming their way. From the direction of the corner Haruhiro had just come around. Here it was. Taller than Mimirin the Giantess, taller than 190-centimeter tall Kazaku. More than double their size, probably. It was nearly 4 meters tall. It had a lion-like head, but with only one eye. Wahaha. Time for me to show my stuff. Ranta picked up Torisan's lightning sword dolphin. Here I go. With my usual super stunning strategy. That name. Shihoro looked thoroughly unimpressed with it. Whoop. The arrow Yum let loose shot towards the 4-meter class white giant's one eye, and did not hit it, instead scratching the side of its face. Ah. So close. Haruhiro took a deep breath, letting the stress out of his shoulders, then glanced to Tokumune. Okay, let's do the usual. Haha. Tokumune gave a friendly laugh and slapped Haruhiro on the back. Okay. Let's do this like we always do. Delm, Hell, N. Mimirin began to chant as she drew elemental sigils with her staff while still holding her drawn sword in her left hand. Arv. She was a former warrior, and it seemed she was still more used to fighting in close quarters, but she was a mage now. This was the most basic of basic spells in Arv magic, Fireball. The elemental formed a ball of fire larger than a person's fist, then sped towards the white giant. The white giant made no attempt to avoid it. The ball of fire struck the white giant in the chest and vanished. Don't get stepped on. Haruhiro shouted an order he realized everyone already knew even as he said it, then looked to Kazaku. Kazaku, you're up front. Also, talkies, form the front line, please. We're on it. Tokumune banged on his shield with his right fist while still holding his sword in that hand. Kikuwa, Inui, Tada, let's make this flashy. Rightio, Kikuwa called. Heh. So be it. Inui added. Yeah, Tada shot back. I'll show you I'm the strongest. Tokumune went, followed by Kikuwa, Inui, Tada, and a silent Kazaku. Haruhiro raised his hips up and down. He didn't change position. Yum, Shiharu, and Mary took up positions right behind Haruhiro. Anasan and Mimirin came over next to him, too. I'm sure I have sleepy eyes right now, he thought. His breathing wasn't ragged, and he was feeling pretty calm, more or less. Tokumune, Kikuwa, Inui, Tada, and Kazaka had formed a horizontal line with as much space between them as possible. That said, This wasn't exactly a wide road. It was a little over 3 meters wide, maybe. Should we have chosen a different road? Haruhiro wondered. But if they had, then it wouldn't have worked as well for ambushing the cultists and taking them out quickly. This time the cultists had formed a group with a white giant, so there were, broadly speaking, 2 options. Give up or come up with a plan. If it had just been Haruhiro and his group, they would have done the former. Ranta, the piece of trash, could have hollered all he wanted, but Haruhiro would have used all of his authority as leader to get the group to retreat. But because, for better and for worse, they were working with the talkies, it wasn't that easy for him anymore. If Haruhiro said, "Hey, this is dangerous, let's not do it," the talkies weren't the type to listen to him and back down quietly. In the end, they came up with a plan where Haruhiro would act as a decoy, running around to separate the cultists from the white giant. Once the cultists were finished off, then they'd sort out the giant. Well, I've gotten used to it, Haruhiro thought. A month had passed since they'd found this new area, an A for short, and discovered the Dusk Realm. A lot's happened in that time, he thought. Too much, really. No, maybe not, I guess. Has it? Yeah, it has. At least, by Haruhiro's standards, it had been a rather eventful month. It was no exaggeration to say that the talkies had been around half of the reason for that. After all, they had found this place together. Actually, Haruhiro and his party had found the entrance first, but it was generally thought the band of jokers, the talkies, had discovered it, while the goblin slayers, Haruhiro and his crew, had just tagged along. But ever since then, many things had happened to make them all closer. That was why, because Haruhiro and the others had remained too worried to go on their own, the 2 groups had ended up going to explore the Dusk Realm regularly together without really having discussed it. This and that had happened. Every day, sometimes multiple times in a day, there would be some incident or another. After all, the talkies were nuts. Unless Haruhiro, the one with pretensions of having common sense, was actually the one who was crazy? Were the talkies normal? He had worried a bit about that, but it was all quite ridiculous. The talkies were crazy. Haruhiro was sane. Ranta aside, there was a nigh unfillable trench between Haruhiro's party and the talkies. No, not nigh unfillable, completely unfillable. It couldn't be done. No way, no how. Once he started thinking that way, it actually made things a little easier on him. Though only a little. If he knew it couldn't be filled, he didn't have to try. It was pointless to. He tried not to think, why are things like this? He always ended up thinking it anyway, but he didn't let himself agonize over it. There was no helping it. It was just the kind of people they were. Once he accepted that, if he just understood it, he could anticipate what they were likely to do in a given situation. That way, he didn't have to get upset or surprised every time they showed their insanity. Other than that, they were certainly not incompetent, so he could use them well. In point of fact, while they were a little too biased towards offense, they were a real force to be reckoned with in combat. Tokumune and Tada, in particular, were first-rate attackers. Tokumune was a paladin, so that was fine for him, but even if he was a former warrior, Tada was supposed to be a priest. Anyhow, if they could just get along with the talkies, they could do things together that Haruhiro's party couldn't do alone. It wouldn't be impossible for them to get through situations that seemed deadly. Also, and this was the most important point in a way, they could make money. Even splitting half their earnings with the talkies, Haruhiro and his group were earning far more efficiently than they ever could have if they'd worked for it slowly and steadily by themselves. Jess, Yin, Sark, Cart, Fram, Dart. Shihoro cast Thunderstorm, and a bundle of lightning struck the white giant. There was a pretty tremendous noise, and the white giant's entire body convulsed. Its feet stopped. Of course, it would start walking again soon, and Even if it was only walking, the white giant was huge. Its legs were long. It would close in on them with massive strides. Hey, hey, he! Tokumune beat his shield to provoke it. Come on, come on, come on. Go, 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 go. The white giant swung its fist down at Tokumune. Nimbly, Tokumune leapt back and away. Go, go. The white giant swung its fist again. Spin. Tokumune danced out of the way. Go. The white giant reached out with both arms to grab Tokumune. Tokumune did a backflip to get away. Ruh. Tada immediately slammed the white giant's arm with his warhammer. Go, go. The white giant pulled back its arm, turning its one eye on Tada. Tada, intentionally no doubt, leisurely rested his warhammer on his shoulder and flipped his middle finger at the white giant. He probably meant something like, "Come get me, you piece of shit." It wasn't clear if the white giant understood the gesture. That was uncertain, but the white giant bent its knees and lowered its hips. It was getting ready to jump. Get back! Haruhiro shouted. That probably could have gone without saying, but he shouted it out just to be sure. Yeah, everyone knows that. Skip it. You don't have to say it. I don't want them thinking that stuff, or we already know that, you idiot, but even if Haruhiro was going to get called an idiot, he had to do it. That was Haruhiro's stance. All right, Tokumune called. The frontliners, including Tokumune, Tada, Kikuwa, Inui, and Kazaku all pulled back as one. At almost exactly the same time, the white giant made its big jump. Pharaoh? Kikuwa exclaimed bizarrely. What's a pharaoh? Haruhiro thought. The white giant leapt 7-8 meters, then landed with an earth-shaking crash. No one got crushed, but if they had been even a little late in backing away, there was a risk that they might have. Now, Haruhiro didn't even have to issue the order. Ranta, who had been lurking in the alleyway, lifted his lightning sword dolphin aloft and charged at the white giant. Ranta didn't so much slash it as whack it with the sword. He was targeting the white giant's right leg. Ha 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 ha. Without giving it pause for breath, Ranta struck and struck and struck. Each time the white giant was hit with his lightning sword dolphin, though only for a very short period, its giant, sculpture-like body would convulse. This was it, the super stunning strategy. What a terrible name. The name aside, this tactic was highly effective, and by stopping its movement like this, it opened up a chance to fell the white giant. Only a chance, though. From here on, the battle would be decided by pure firepower. Or destructive power, really. Tada-san, Haruhiro called. Tada licked his lips and charged forth. Don't tell me everything. Just let witnessing my power send you to heaven. No, I'm not going to heaven, Haruhiro wanted to mutter, but he restrained himself. If he took a comedic jab at every little thing the Taki said, he'd never last. Now, my killer attack. Tada did a run-up before launching into a forward somersault and slamming his warhammer down on the white giant's left knee with both hands. Somersault bomb. But man, Tada-san's seriously amazing, thought Haruhiro. Tada's warhammer sank into the white giant's left knee, sending lots of shards flying. Take that, and 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 it. Ranta hollered. He kept swinging his lightning sword dolphin and stunning the white giant. Tada took a single breath, adjusted the position of his glasses, then unhurriedly put some distance between himself and the white giant. Whoa, 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 whoa. Ranta shouted, looking at Tada while beating his lightning sword dolphin against the white giant's leg. Hurry the hell up, man. This is pretty tough, damn it. Gwaha. Tada cocked his head to the side, swinging his warhammer around. Did you just curse at me? No, sir, I did not. You're hearing things, man. Just hearing things. Nwaha. I am, huh? So, is that tough? It's super, super tough, man. Hurry up. Like, seriously, get another hit in. Like I care, said Tata. Although, if it's tough for you, that's your problem, not mine. Hi, you ass. You ass? Tata repeated. Tata-san. Tata-sama. Tata the god. I'm joking. Tata smirked and then raced forward. Yeah, Haruhiro thought. I don't get it. Tada's jokes are always incomprehensible. Ahaha. That rocked. I love Tadachi's surreal gags, yelled Kikuo. Since the only one laughing is Kikuo, and he has ridiculously high social skills, that probably means even the talkies don't get Tada's jokes, Haruhiro thought. That's slightly reassuring. If they were the sort of people who burst out laughing at that, I'd never be able to put up with them. Qua. 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 Yua. Ranta let out what sounded like his death screams, wringing out the last of his power to keep wailing on the white giant's right leg. Now that I think about it, Tada did a forward somersault and unleashed another somersault bomb. This killer attack isn't killing it at all, is it? This time he went for the right knee. There was a resounding crunch. Tada glanced over to see that Ranta was still working hard, then followed up with another 2 or 3 hits. Yum! Haruhiro shouted, to which she responded, meow, and started to fire arrows. It was the archery skill, rapid fire. With no gap in between, she would knock arrows to her composite bow, then fire. She fired and fired. Inui's a hunter, too, and he has a bow, but I've never seen him use it, I think. That thought suddenly occurred to Haruhiro. Maybe I should ask him the next time I get a chance. Aren't you gonna use your bow? No. Maybe it should be, can't you use your bow? Of course, Inui might snap. But he might fight harder because of it. Would he? I dunno. I mean, it's Inui. Yum fired off 6 shots in rapid succession, 2 of which hit the white giant's eye. It was a good result coming from Yum, who was a poor archer despite being a hunter. Gwa. Ranta fell back, stumbling. I'm at my limit. Good job, Ranta. You have nice a butthole, yeah. Anasan's compliments were pretty effective. It was little wonder why the talkies kept her as their mascot and idol. Though you had to question why she'd compliment his butthole of all things. All right. Leave it to me. Tokumun's voice came from up above. Wait, when did he get there? He had been in the street until just moments ago, but now Tokumun was on top of the building ahead of Haruhiro and to the left. Huh! Tokumun shouted. He leapt off the building with a cry. Or rather, he leapt from it to something else. From the roof to the white giant's shoulder. Ranta had exhausted himself, and his lightning sword dolphin's stunning effect had worn off. Go, Ga, go. The white giant tried flailing around. Before it could, Tokumun buried his sword in its one eye. Tokumun didn't just thrust it in, though, he twisted it around. There it is. Tokumun-san's deadly skill, Saint Arpeggio. Kikuo cried. Kikuo was saying something, but if Haruhiro started wonder why it was an arpeggio, of all things, he wouldn't be able to sleep at night, so he wanted to pretend he hadn't heard the comment. No, but seriously, why is it an arpeggio? Is it music now? Huh. Tokumun immediately jumped away from the white giant, returning to the building. Between Yum's arrows and Tokumun's Saint Arpeggio, or whatever it was called, the white giant had taken more damage to its one eye than it could handle. Pull back! Haruhiro shouted as he backed away himself. Yum and the other girls, Ranta, and everyone on the front line except for Tokumun put some distance between themselves and the white giant. Tokumun alone was different. On top of the building, he was literally watching from on high. Go! The white giant swung both of its arms around, unsteady on its feet. It likely wanted to attack Haruhiro and the others somehow, but it was blind. On top of that, both its knees were damaged. The white giant fell into a building on the right-hand side, opposite from where Tokumune was. The outer wall, while it didn't collapse outright, took some damage. Go, go! The white giant tried to steady itself, but it couldn't brace its legs, so that wasn't going so well for it. It looked like it might trip. Ada! Haruhiro began to shout, then swallowed the word. Tada was already surging towards the white giant. The white giant didn't fully trip, but it fell to one knee. Tada leapt towards that knee with a forward somersault, then somersault bomb. It was a single strike, no, a single blast. Having been hit by a second somersault bomb, its left knee was half destroyed. It probably wouldn't be getting back on its feet like that. Go! The white giant reached out to grab Tada, but it didn't even graze him. Yeah, that's how awesome I am! Tada shouted. While singing his own praises, he not only didn't run, he landed a solid blow on the white giant's right hand with his warhammer. Having figured out Tada's location based on that, the white giant reached out for him with its left hand. Tada knocked this one back with his warhammer too. If you think you can beat me, try again in a million years. Tada hollered. Nothing to do, Kazaka muttered. Oh, are you sure about that? Haruhiro turned to look behind him. Things happen sometimes, so he could never let his guard down. And sure enough, from the other side of the road, a number of Pansakis were running this way with their spears ready. Enemy reinforcements, he shouted. Pansakis, 3 of them. Kazaku, Kikuwa, Inui-san. Gotcha, Kazaka called. Okie dokie, Kikuwa yelled. Heh, what choice do I have? Inui called back. Kazaku, Kikuwa, and Inui immediately broke off from the front line, running past Haruhiro and the girls in the back line to deal with the enemy reinforcements. Mary glanced over in that direction quickly, but immediately looked back to the white giant. The power of the god of light, Lumieris, didn't reach the dusk realm, so she couldn't use light magic here. Even if all she could do was act as a bodyguard for Shihoru, Mary was staying focused. That's not what I'm worried about, Haruhiro thought. Mary is overly serious by nature. Because of that, once she's done what she ought to, she tends to start thinking, is this good enough? And isn't there anything else I can do? I need to watch out for that and take care of her. Naturally, I mean that as a leader. Nothing more than that. There are no other feelings involved. None. 0, okay? 0. Now you give it one last push, yeah. Fight on. Yeah. Anasan gave some welcome encouragement. Delm, Hell, N, Rig, Arv. Mimirin chanted as she drew elemental sigils with her staff. Fire Pillar. This was the strongest spell that the former warrior Mimirin had. A pillar of flame rose at the white giant's feet. That said, it was smaller than Mimirin herself and actually kind of cutesy. It was facing a massive white giant, so it wasn't likely to have much of an effect. If she's aiming to become an Arv magic user, shouldn't she at least acquire the blast spell? Haruhiro thought. It wasn't something for a thief, and a member of another party at that, to give his opinion about, and Haruhiro had a somewhat complicated relationship with Mimirin, so while he thought that, he didn't say it. Even if he found himself wanting to say it occasionally, he really couldn't. Om. Rel. Ect. Vel. Thursh. Shihoru used the Shadow Echo spell to launch 3 shadow elementals, which hit the white giant. The damage was trivial, no doubt, but her magic was purely meant as support here. Phew. Ranta came up beside Haruhiro and squatted. Good work, Haruhiro told him, looking around as he did. While he did, he flexed his knees so that he was ready to move at any time. Thanks to that, at times like this, Haruhiro was in a slightly forward-leaning position, both arms hanging loosely at his sides and looking around restlessly with sleepy eyes. If someone who didn't know any better saw him, the way he looked, they'd probably think, "Is that guy all right?" Haruhiro was aware that it wasn't a good look, but this was also the optimal stance for him to be in, so there wasn't much he could do about it. He'd given up on looking cool. For now, he had to focus on utility. Haruhiro could never be Tokumune. Speaking of Tokumune, he reached the new enemies before Kazaka did. The true art of killing in midair. Leaping from rooftop to rooftop, then jumping down from there, he landed a splendid kick of Pansuk F's head. Then, once he had knocked Pansuk F flying and landed, he swept Pansuk G's spear away with his shield and thrust his sword through the cultist's eye hole. Without missing a beat, he closed in on Pansuk H and whacked him with bash and double thrust. Pansuk H managed to twist his body around and avoid a lethal blow through his eye hole, but he was overwhelmed and recoiling. When Kazaku and the other two finally made it, the fight was already won. Tokumune was strong. He was strong when he got carried away, and also strong when pushed into a corner. Basically, he was always strong. He had charisma, too, and a good personality. If he had one shortcoming, it was perhaps that he was impulsive, arbitrary, and he would run off and do things all by himself. But that was a trend with all of the talkies. When people are similar, they often are hostile to and reject those like them, but that didn't happen with the talkies. Everyone seemed to be getting along and having fun, so they must have been doing something right. Go, go! The white giant must have measured things out poorly or something, because it slammed into a building while moving at almost a crawl. No, it couldn't see, so it couldn't measure things at all. "You clumsy oaf!" Tada hollered. As if he had been waiting for just this moment, Tada landed a series of strikes on the white giant's elbow and half destroyed it. Now an enormous blow had been dealt to both the white giant's left knee and elbow. Then, targeting the white giant's right foot, Tada showered blows on its ankle, following it up by knocking its heel off. It had taken a blow to the right knee as well, so the white giant's range of motion was fairly limited now. Haruhiro nodded. "Ranta. One more time, it's your turn." "Heh." Ranta got up and shook his head back and forth, rotating his shoulders and taking a deep breath. "Fine, if you insist." "I'll do it." "Tada-san." Haruhiro shouted. When Haruhiro gave the signal, Tada backed down and Ranta stepped up to take his place. Tada went into the alley. He probably meant to climb up onto the roof. Ranta hit the white giant with his lightning sword dolphin. He hit it. He hit it, and 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 hit it. It looked like Tokumune and the others were done mopping up the enemy reinforcements. They were headed back this way. Tada did a forward somersault off of the roof. "Still, I'm amazed he can do something that dangerous," thought Haruhiro. At this point, it no longer surprised him, but it did impress him. Ultra somersault. Boom. Tada's warhammer thudded into the nape of the white giant's neck with incredible force. They had tried a lot of different things, but a white giant's weak points seemed to be its one eye and the nape of its neck. Or rather, compared to its body as a whole, the skin there was a bit thinner. It wasn't just that their necks were especially vulnerable to impacts, they seemed to have something analogous to the spinal cord in humans there, too. It was a hard area to target, but attacks that landed there were extremely effective. "That's enough, Ranta," Haruhiro called. "Yeah, I know, duh." Ranta put some distance between himself and the white giant. While Tada had fallen to the ground after unleashing his somersault bomb, he seemed to have landed well. The white giant slumped over and fell on its front. At this point, Haruhiro didn't need to urge anyone on. "All right. Party time." "Yeah?" Anna-san called. With that declaration by Anna-san, Mimirin was the first to begin climbing up the white giant's back. Tokumune quickly caught up and got ahead of her, then Kikoa and Inui followed. Kuzaku followed a little bit after them. Ranta and then Tada rushed up to the white giant and hit it. Stabbed it. Haruhiro felt himself wanting to join in, too, but he refrained. There was no need, and more cultists might show up. It was even possible another white giant might come this way. Haruhiro, Yume, Shihoru, and Mary stayed on the sidelines of this merciless celebration, not taking part. They cheered them on along with Ana-san. I have to keep a cool head at all times, Haruhiro thought. Of course, there will be times when I have to gamble with my life, too. When those times come, rather than calm thought, the only option is to entrust my body to instinct and wild frenzy, then count on agility to carry me through, I'm sure. But I don't want to invite those sorts of situations, and to avoid them, I really do have to try and stay calm. You're boring, you know that, Ranta often said to him. Haruhiro didn't think he was an interesting person. If he was being told he was boring, it was probably true. My personality is plain. My face looks average. Middle of the middle or lower, even. I'm not tall, either. I'm not especially shrewd, and I'm not someone who's actually really talented but trying to keep my skills a secret or anything like that. The best I can say is I'm middle of the road. Well, I'm normal. The thing is, I don't mind my current self, a person who can say, I'm fine with being normal, and not look down on himself for it. I'm normal, and I'm sure I'm going to keep being normal. I can't become anyone special, and I'm not trying to. Though it's not like I'm satisfied with the current state of things, either. I'd say to take it step by step, but that's asking for too much, so half steps will be fine. Even if it's only 1/4 of one step, and even if we can't make that much progress day to day, 10 days from now, I want to have gotten just a little bit farther ahead. Somehow, I get the sense that we're managing that. That may be why I'm able to not hate myself. I'm doing my best, right? What's more, I have results to show for it, which means I'm being rewarded, right? Being rewarded for your effort is a blessing, isn't it? That means I'm pretty fortunate, aren't I? I can look up into the sky and report to Minato and Maguzo, who we'll never see again. We're still working at it. Guys, isn't that amazing? I think it is. While watching over the merciless party with his sleepy eyes, Haruhiro looked around to ensure no new enemies were coming. No matter how advantageous their situation, even if the battle were more or less decided, something could suddenly happen to turn everything around. If that happened, it happened, and they just had to accept it and move on, but he didn't want to make that sort of decision if he didn't have to. The nape of the white giant's neck and the back of its head were more or less destroyed, and it had already stopped moving. It seemed to be dead. But in some ways, the hard part of dealing with a 4-meter giant was yet to come. It was a time-intensive and bothersome task, but it paid off well. At first, the white giants had been these huge, dangerous things that had just gotten in their way, and they had treated them as something to run away from as soon as they saw them. However, Shinohara of Clan Orion had discovered that the white giants had a number of organs inside them where an unknown metal was concentrated. Ever since someone had spread word of that discovery, the white giants had become a favored target for volunteer soldiers. By the way, this wasn't a recent development. It had happened close to a month ago. I got me some rainbow pyroxene. Ranta shouted like an idiot, holding up an orb with a 15-centimeter diameter that shone with the rainbow of colors its name suggested. As far as Haruhiro knew, these rainbow pyroxene organs that were unique to the white giants were usually fist-sized, so that one would be considered large. Yahoo! Me too. Me too. Me too. I got one. Kikoa lifted another rainbow pyroxene up high, with one eye closed and his tongue stuck out. This second one was 10 centimeters across, maybe. Still, that wasn't small. In the end, those were the only 2 rainbow pyroxenes they extracted from the white giant. However, when they stripped the cultists of their ponchos and searched them, they were able to find a number of accessories with small pieces of rainbow pyroxene embedded in them. These rainbow pyroxenes had been diligently ground and polished, so they had a high value for their small size. "Well, I'd say we'll make around 6, Tokumune said from atop the giant's remains, his white teeth sparkling as he smiled. While thinking, wow, they're brilliant, Haruhiro tilted his head to the side and thought. Nah, I'd say about 5, maybe? That's all, you think? Tokumune asked. Probably. 5 gold. Split 50-50 with the talkies, Haruhiro and the party's take would be 2 gold and 50 silver. Split 6 ways, that was a bit over 41 silver each. Not bad. Or rather, it was an incredible amount that they could never have imagined making a few months ago. I shouldn't get used to this, he thought. I have to assume making this much won't be a given. The white giant's remains would have to be left where they were, but they at least dragged the cultists' corpses to the side of the road before Haruhiro's party and the talkies moved on. Soon, they passed by someone. Not a cultist and not a white giant, but a human. No, humans. Volunteer soldiers, to be precise. Oh! The hunter that led the group gave off an unpleasant vibe. He wore a hide outfit, a cap with a feather in it, and had a bow and a quiver of arrows slung over his back. He was probably a little older than Haruhiro and the others. He had eyes like a fox and a crooked mouth. It's the goblin slayers and the comedians. Hello, Kuzuoka-san. Haruhiro bowed his head slightly. Among all the senior volunteer soldiers, there were a few he was less than happy about having to address with A-san. This was one of them. They hadn't had much in the way of interaction, but he did have a grudge against this man. When they had just arrived in Grimgar, Kuzuoka had scouted Maguzo to join his party, then stolen his money and abandoned him. TCH. Ranta clicked his tongue with distaste. Kuzuoka narrowed his eyes and tried to intimidate them with a huh. There were a warrior, thief, mage, priest, and dread knight following Kuzuoka. One looked as if he wanted to say, "Here we go again," while another was impassive, and yet another seemed amused. Each of the 5 had their own reaction, but none of them were anything remotely friendly. Why, hello, Kuzuoka-san, Kikuwa butted in, slapping Kuzuoka on the shoulder in that over-friendly manner of his. It's been, like, ages. You been doing all right, Kuzuoka-san? Like, how've things been lately? Damn it, don't touch me, crap kawa. Kuzuoka yelled. Huh? What's this? I'm cute as crap? Man, I always thought I was. I didn't say that, you dolt. No need to be shy, Krapoka-san. Oops, got it wrong, it's Kuzuoka. Saws. I'm gonna reflect on what I did. There's no way you're reflecting on anything. Kuzuoka screamed. Yep. I'm not. Teehee. You piss me off, you know that? Kuzuoka snarled. Move it or die. I'll kill you. That's not possible, Tokumune said with a friendly smile. I don't know you all that well, but I do know you're weaker than me. Wanna try it and see? I am not gonna do it. Kuzuoka pushed Kikuwa aside. We're going, he ordered his comrades, and they shuffled along. Even as he left, the way he kept muttering what sounded like insults at the group was very like Kuzuoka. That guy. Ranta kicked the ground. With his rotten personality, I'm amazed he manages to be a party leader. I can't believe him. Yeah, Haruhiro rubbed the back of his neck. You're not one to talk, though. 2. My love is always like this. There was no sun that rose or set in the dusk realm, no mornings or nights. Compasses were worthless here, leaving no way to tell the cardinal directions. That was inconvenient, so Shinohara of Orion had come up with a proposal. Looking out from the initial hill, Off in the distance, there was a pillar-shaped object rising into the sky. It was of a size and shape that didn't seem natural, and it had probably been created by someone. He suggested that, for the sake of convenience, that direction would be north. With no objections, everyone had accepted that idea. East of the initial hill, a pair of adventurers called Lala and Nono had discovered a valley where plants grew and a spring with clear water at the bottom of it. Incidentally, it had also been Lala and Nono who'd arrived 5 days after Haruhiro and the others to discover the hole that had appeared in the Grimble mineshaft in the Wonder Hole. On top of that, Lala and Nono had named those bat-like creatures gremlins. The name Rikomo wasn't being used anymore. Even Haruhiro and the rest called them gremlins now. Lala and Nono named the area where the gremlins were thought to lay their eggs the egg storage, and the area past there the gremlin flats. Naturally, Haruhiro and the rest were using those names too at this point. Lala and Nono had a knack for business, and they had made money by inviting Orion, Iron Knuckle, and the other influential clans to the Dusk Realm and charging them to show them around. Lala and Nono were apparently very diligent and meticulous. They searched every nook and cranny of the Gremlin Flats and discovered the entrance to another world, separate from the Dusk Realm, where it was always dark and the dawn never came, the Night Realm. The Night Realm was still more or less untouched. It was dark, after all, and there were rumors that volunteer soldiers may or may not have gone in there, never to return. It seemed to be a very dangerous place, and there were rumors that Lala and Nono were secretly continuing to investigate it. On this day, when those idle rumors were feeling like they might have some truth to them, the Dusk Realm was the #1 hunting ground for volunteer soldiers. It had become that way in almost no time whatsoever. Haruhiro stood out in front of his tent, taking a sip of water from his canteen. He sighed. It sure is amazing. In the area between the valley Lala and Nono discovered and to the east of the initial hill, there were not just 10, but tens of tents lined up. Most of them belonged to volunteer soldiers who, like Haruhiro and the Takis, were staying in the Dusk Realm. The rest were for those that did business with volunteer soldiers, an itinerant cafeteria, an itinerant bar, a blacksmith, a bathhouse, a reseller, a branch of the Yorozu Deposit Company, and even those sorts of people who sold companionship. These people had their tents set up near the valley, while the volunteer soldiers' tents were set up around them, forming a sort of miniature village. It was being called the Dusk Realm Volunteer Soldier Corps Settlement. No, that was a lie. Almost no one called it such a fancy name. The settlement was what it was called for short. Night never came here. On the outside, it was probably the middle of the night now, but in a way, there was no time here, so it didn't really feel like it. Anasan had a mechanical clock, so Haruhiro and the others relied on it to wake up in the morning, be active during the day, and then sleep as much as possible at night. Haruhiro really wanted to do that, but he was feeling a little bit of insomnia. That was why he was here alone, huddled outside the tent. He could hear Ronta's snoring. No way I'm getting to sleep over that, he thought. The voices of the volunteer soldiers at the itinerant bar were sounding awfully noisy. I'm not going to be getting any sleep at all, he thought. The way that, it never gets dark here is getting to me, Haruhiro mumbled. Is it making me nervous? He wondered. I'm not completely insensitive to these things like Ronta is, but I don't think I'm excessively sensitive either. I want to live alone. Someday, he murmured. There's just something intolerable about having people around at all times. It can get suffocating. Pretty often, actually. It's a pretty big dream, but I want to run a room all to myself. Ugh, I hate this, 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 hate this. I can't take it anymore. He buried his head in his arms and muttered to himself for a while. That helped him feel a little better. Let's be realistic. I mean, even if I were going to rent a room, we won't be back in Alterna for a while. In the Lonesome Field Outpost and the settlement, we're gonna be living in tents. When it comes to moving around, the fewer tents the better. The current arrangement, one for the guys, one for the girls, 2 total, is probably the best. I know that, so why do I occasionally have such an urge to be alone? I can't think of a reason. Maybe it's partly because I'm the leader, a role I'm fundamentally not suited for. Actually, mostly because of that, I try to be considerate to the others. That's fine when we're working. There's a lot to think about, a lot to do, so I don't focus on it so much. But when the day is over and I'm freed from my duties, it all weighs down on me, making it hard to breathe. I don't think I want to throw it all away. I don't plan to run away from it either. It's hard. I can't throw anything away, and I have no intention to, but it's rough. I'm doing more than I can handle, and I can't help but feel inadequate. But still, I have to do it. I can't whine about it either. I don't want to worry my comrades, and I don't want to rock the boat. It could affect our performance. Anyway, I'm being considerate of their feelings, both with my comrades and the talkies. I have no other choice. That emotional labor is wearing me out. I want to be alone. Well, I am, though, he murmured. Alone. That's right. I got my wish. I am alone now. Haruhiro got up. I'll go for a walk. He left the tent and headed towards the valley. There was no day or night here, so there were customers at both the itinerant cafeteria and bar. There were volunteer soldiers wandering around, too, but Haruhiro moved stealthily to avoid their attention. There was a large number of volunteer soldiers gathered here in the settlement. Still, it wasn't like there were 200 or 300 of them. He was at least acquainted with most of the volunteer soldiers, but they were his seniors, and Haruhiro and the others were generally the subject of ridicule. If one of them called out to him and he had to engage in pointless small talk, he was sure to have an unpleasant time. Besides, he wanted to be alone. The members of Iron Knuckle were having a party at the itinerant bar. They were what you'd call a clan, but for some reason they called themselves a family and addressed each other as brothers. In the center of the group was a man with a buzz cut who wasn't especially large and had a baby face, but even at a distance gave off an intimidating aura, Titan Max. The man with a short goatee sitting next to him was his right-hand man, Aiden. Apparently Max's real name was Mosfumi and Aiden's was Isuk, but anyone who spoke those names in front of either of them was guaranteed to end up seeing their own blood. It wasn't just Max and Aiden. Most of the brothers had nicknames they called each other by. We are Iron Knuckle. Yeha, the brothers shouted. Haruhiro heard that shout from them often. The brothers got very excited when they shouted it together with their throaty voices. He didn't really get it, that sort of culture. Iron Knuckle had been the next ones to storm into the Dusk Realm after Orion, and they had quickly demonstrated how fierce they were. Orion was a reflection of Shinohara's character, and its members were generally elegant, a sort of large-scale explorers club, but Max and his lot were completely different. They were bellicose to the core, a terrifying group of fighters. They killed them. Every cultist they got their hands on, they killed. It was a massacre. There were cultist towns scattered around the Dusk Realm. Before Orion came, Haruhiro and the others had discovered 2 of them. However, they had never approached them since there were cultists living there. That would have been clearly dangerous. However, Iron Knuckle had charged into one of those towns like it didn't matter. From what Haruhiro had heard, they had spent a full day, over 24 hours, staying in town and murdering cultists. In the end, the surviving cultists had left town, and Iron Knuckle had returned singing manly songs about their victory. They had occupied the town. No, perhaps it was more accurate to say they had destroyed it. In fact, it just so happened that these days, that was the town Haruhiro and the others sometimes used as their hunting ground. After that, Iron Knuckle hadn't continued to occupy the town. They'd set off on a journey of raids and slaughter. Did they spend their day's earnings the day they got them? No, that wasn't it. Anyway, the cultists had been returning to the town in small groups, but they only cleaned up the corpses of their fallen comrades and patrolled the area, showing no intention of living there for now. Furthermore, the white giants were usually in the areas called cultist bases, or just bases, and not in the cultist towns. That had been true from what the party had seen so far. For starters, unlike cultists, white giants weren't just anywhere and everywhere. It was only in the ruins of the Temple of the Giant Gods that the Takis had fled into on their second day in the Dusk Realm, or in the basin to the southwest of the initial hill called the Great Cauldron of the Gods that there had been confirmed sightings of white giants. However, ever since Iron Knuckle had crushed one of the cultist bases, the white giants had begun to wander around. Sometimes, they were even seen acting in concert with the cultists. For that reason, it was now easy to catch a limited number of cultists and white giants in the base that Iron Knuckle had destroyed, making it a convenient hunting ground for volunteer soldiers. Among volunteer soldiers, it was called the First. Did that come from it being the first base destroyed by humans, or from it being the first hunting ground? Or both, perhaps? Haruhiro didn't really know. Well, we've got a lot to thank Iron Knuckle for, that's for sure, he murmured. They were terrible people, yeah. It wasn't going to be easy to wipe away that feeling completely. But as Haruhiro and the others were living off the spoils of their work, that meant they were just as terrible, and they were also petty. They were in no position to criticize. That aside, Haruhiro put his skills as a thief to use, reaching the edge of the valley without attracting anyone's attention. He savored the small feeling of accomplishment. I'm such a small-timer, he thought. But I'm fine with that. Being small-time. It's great. I want to be a small-timer forever. Honestly, what I don't want is to be a small-time leader, and it really hurts that I have no choice in the matter. When this place had first been found, it had been verdant and green, but now it was much more desolate. The trees had all been cut down, not a single one left. There were some bushes left here and there. That was about it. The spring in the bottom of the valley was being used as a water source. Haruhiro's canteen contained water from this spring that had been boiled. The water looked clear and clean, but if you drank it straight, it was guaranteed to give you the runs. Intensely, too. The volunteer soldiers didn't hold back in their use of water, so there was the risk of the spring running dry, but it seemed fine for now. When he looked into the spring, for some reason, it calmed his heart. Doing this let him get back to a level state of mind. He was such a simple, cheap person. He was happy to be a simple, cheap person. If Haruhiro had been a refined and complicated person, he would no doubt have worried himself sick over more things. He had started to feel like he could get to sleep, so Haruhiro decided to turn back to the tent. This is all I amount to, really. As he walked, he laughed to himself. Day in and day out, he thought the same sorts of things over and over, racking his brains over them, and then he would notice he just didn't care anymore. He would start to get into the mindset of, well, I'll work hard again tomorrow. You could say I'm not making any real progress. But still, it's not so bad. I'm no one important, so I have to question if it's that easy to make progress. The party as a whole is making steady progress and managing to turn a profit, so it's fine, right? He thought. Yeah, it's fine. I should just accept that. That's what I'll do. My sweet tent is just around the corner now. Not that there's anything sweet about it. Hey, wait. Someone came out of the tent. No, not someone. It could only be Ranta or Kazaku. It's Kazaku, Haruhiro noticed. He's as tall as ever, even if his posture isn't that good. Not a surprise, really. Height doesn't change that easily. That's obvious. If that had been all, it wouldn't have mattered. Oh, what's this? He woke up. But another person came out of the neighboring tent, so it was a big deal. Well, no, not a big deal, but Kazaka came out of the guy's tent, and Mary came out of the girl's tent at almost exactly the same time. Could that really be a coincidence? Maybe it was an inevitability? It was hard to say. I can't ask them. Haruhiro ducked into the shadow of a nearby tent. He had immediately hidden himself, though he hadn't intended to. Is there anything wrong with hiding? Not really, no. But still, I really shouldn't. He stuck his face out halfway, watching the two of them. Why do I have to do this? It's like I'm peeping. It's not good. It really isn't. But still, I have to admit, I'm kinda curious. Of course I am. I mean, I'm the leader, right? Maybe that doesn't matter? No, but it's happening inside the party, isn't it? You can't say it's absolutely none of my business, right? I dunno. Maybe it isn't? They were saying something. Mary was looking downwards a little. I wonder what the hell they're talking about. Damn it. I can't hear. Oh, Haruhiro finally let out a strange groan. Kazaka had grabbed Mary's arm, no, her sleeve. He pulled on it and they walked off. Mary didn't resist. Still looking down, she followed him. Oh! So she's going. She's going to go. Off together. Oh! I see. So that's how it is. I saw it, Haruhiro murmured. Well, whatever. That's right. I'm okay with it, you know? It's not like I haven't seen this coming for a while. Yeah. I did, okay? It was practically a sure thing. How far have they gone? That I'm not sure of, and I have no intention of finding out, because I don't want to find out, but I'm damn sure that something has happened between them, at least. I'm sure a fair bit has happened. So, please, just go ahead. Do whatever you want. Yeah? Like it's any of my business. I mean, if anything, I'd be rooting for you, okay? I will, you know. If you'd say something, that is. If you'd just be honest and tell me. I kind of think they should come out and announce it, you know. Huh. Haruhiro let out a deep sigh, sitting down on the ground and holding his chest. He felt like he could cry. It's a shock. Why? Why am I so shocked by it? Because they're being secretive? Tell me. Say something. Don't you trust me? Is that it? I don't think it's quite that. Even if I'd rather they didn't hide it, it's not exactly the easiest thing to announce. It's not like I can't see it that way. Actually, the two of us are going out. Just suddenly saying that wouldn't be like Kazaku, and it wouldn't be like Mary, either. You know, it's just not in their personalities. Besides, their relationship may be slowly growing deeper. There may not be any clear line or a definite form that it's taken. Maybe they both feel bad about keeping quiet about it to their comrades, but they just can't bring themselves to say anything. They may not know how to say it themselves. There could be all sorts of things going on. There must be. Besides, they have, what, feelings? For each other? So, they're mutually attracted? Urgh. There's a pain in my chest. This is agony. What is this? Well, anyway, if they're going to be in, what, love? Something like that? A romantic relationship? Mutual love? That's between the two of them, and they're free to do it. They're absolutely free to do it. No one has any right to get in their way. Anyone who gets in the way of love deserves to be kicked to death by a horse. That was what Haruhiro thought. He really did think that from the bottom of his heart. So, why? Is that really the reason they're doing this? It was hard to accept it, and he didn't want to accept it, and he felt like it was best not to, But in the end, that was probably what was going on here. No matter what he said, Haruhiro had rather liked Mary. In a plain and simple way, a truly plain and simple way, a way so plain and simple that it suited him, he'd had a one-sided crush on her. Naturally, I never really thought, even the slightest bit, that I could make Mary like me back. I had no expectation of that. I can say that definitively. That was why I never wanted to think that I was in love with Mary. I tried not to think about it. I mean, it feels so empty and meaningless. Even so, he had probably loved her. If he ran a thought experiment like this, he could see it. Take Yum or Shihoru, his comrades like Mary, for example. Imagine Yum or Shihoru had gotten together with someone in the party. When that happened, would he feel this pain in his chest? Would it hurt like this? Probably not. Shihoru and Ranta, if it were a pairing like that, it would be a pretty big surprise. But he'd just be really surprised, and he might worry about what would happen in the future, but it would surely end at that. The same with Yum and Ranta. If it were Yum and Kazaku, or Shihoru and Kazaku, it would be unexpected, but oh, I see. I hope you find happiness. Try not to break up, okay? It'd be a pain to deal with the fallout, would be about his reaction to it. It was only because it was Mary. Whether it was Kazaka she hooked up with or anyone else, Haruhiro would probably always have been in shock. Because he had been pretty seriously in love with Mary. I see. So that's what it was. Haruhiro looked vacantly up into the many-colored sky. A hole opened up in his chest which had been weighed down and tormented by pain for a while now. Because it was a hole, there was nothing there, just the wind blowing through. Haruhiro's heart was broken. Or rather, it had been broken for a while now. 3. With all my heart. And? So what if it had been? Did that mean anything? It didn't. There was nothing he could do about it. Haruhiro's emotions had nothing to do with the way they all lived day to day. His feelings had no influence on that. He had settled those feelings now, or comes to terms with them, you could say. In fact, all his frustration had evaporated at this point. He didn't even care what was going on between Mary and Kazaku anymore. Well, it hadn't gotten quite to the point where he could think, I wish them both the best, but sure, fine, do whatever you want. Oh, by the way, you may think you're keeping it quiet, but I know. Maybe? Yeah, honestly, he couldn't think that either. They thought it was a secret, but he knew. What could he do to resolve that gap? Should he try to resolve it at all? He wasn't sure. It was awkward. So, when the idea of let's go back to Alterna for a little while came up, it was a huge help. He had saved up a good amount of money, so it was about time for him to learn at least one new skill, and he wanted to do some shopping, too. Also, he wanted to face himself properly. Or rather, he wanted some time. Sorting out his feelings and all that stuff, it wasn't that easy. Over the course of about 2 days, they traveled from the Dusk Realm settlement, passing through the Lonesome Field outpost, then crossing the Quickwind Plains to Alterna. They parted there for a time. Haruhiro went to the Thieves' Guild, where he spent 7 days learning stealth, the ultimate thieving skill. He had debated whether to take the skill air throw from the art of fighting and killing instead, but as the party's plain and boring leader who doubled as its scout, what he really wanted was the full set of skills that would let him conceal his presence and not be detected by others. He paid 20 gold to the guild for it. That wasn't cheap, it was expensive, actually, but if he didn't learn it properly, he would be missing out. Besides, Haruhiro's mentor Barbara was super strict, so there was no chance of her letting him cut corners. I thought I was going to die, Haruhiro moaned. This time, without any joking or exaggeration, he had been told to die. To become a corpse. Stealth was composed of what could broadly be categorized into 3 techniques. The first, to eliminate your presence, hide. The second, to move with your presence eliminated swing. The third, to utilize all of your senses to detect the presences of others' sense. When he'd begun with hide, the first stage, Barbara had ordered Haruhiro, die, and then mercilessly punished him when he couldn't do it well enough. She'd broken 2, maybe 3 bones, then forced him to train at using hide in that state. There was this one person with a shady background, a former thief who had now become a priest. When someone was injured at the Thieves' Guild, he would come to heal them, but it was still questionable whether she should be driving her students to the point of nearly passing out in extreme agony. It was just cruel. As Barbara-sensei told it, if she didn't break him in under these extreme conditions, he wouldn't learn properly. She was doing this all for him. He ought to be crying tears of gratitude. As a matter of fact, it was a trial he couldn't get through without shedding tears. He could see how what Barbara was saying had some truth to it. However, if he had made one misstep, Haruhiro might have died. It was scary. Having borne through it had paid off, though. The basics of stealth had now thoroughly seeped into Haruhiro's head and body and would never leave them. Now, even when he was just idly wandering through Alterna in the evening, he would catch himself using hide, swing, and sense without intending to. It was a little creepy, if he did say so himself. "You've got an aptitude for this," Barbara had said, offering him a rare compliment. "You must really be suited to this line of work." Well, Haruhiro smiled a little as he melded into the crowds of the marketplace. "I was glad to hear that, yeah. Even though it's for being a thief, you know?" he thought. It goes without saying, but a thief is someone who steals things. A robber. Apparently, the Thieves' Guild had its origins in a secret society of thieves, Black Widow, who'd worked behind the scenes in the kingdom of Arabakia. When Arabakia had advanced into the frontier, Black Widow had offered to assist the royal army in exchange for the release of their imprisoned comrades. This offer had been accepted, and some of those former prisoners who'd been sent to certain death as scouts in the frontier had gone on to create the Thieves' Guild. Quite the heroic tale, really, Haruhiro thought. Is it because of those origins that the Thieves' Guild's training is so rough? Or is Barbara-sensei just a sadist? Whichever the case might be, a thief was still a thief. Some of them misused the skills they had acquired in the Thieves' Guild to indulge in a life of endless larceny. Haruhiro hadn't thought much about it before becoming a thief, or rather, he hadn't thought about it at all, but when he said, "I'm a thief," it made more than a few people furrow their brows. Especially those living normal lives in Alterna. "That's just prejudice," he might try to explain. "Most of the thieves in the Thieves' Guild are volunteer soldiers, and they don't steal anything." But the art of thieving still had skills like picking, burglary, and even pickpocket, all of which had practical applications. If one were so inclined, a thief could turn to robbery at any time. It was hard to blame people for being wary. "It's not a respected trade, I guess," Haruhiro murmured. He liked skulking around and doing reconnaissance. It suited him, to the point that he thought it was his calling. But a thief, huh? Maybe they should have changed the name. When the guild was formed, they wouldn't have had to call themselves thieves. They should have gone with something else. Or did our predecessors who founded the Thieves' Guild take pride in the fact that they were thieves? No, but is that something you'd take pride in? The Thieves' Guild has no code, so someone could even start up another guild. "No, not that I'd do that, of course," he murmured. "Won't someone else do it for me?" If someone did, Haruhiro would join that guild in a second. "I'd be a bit sad to break off my master and apprentice relationship with Barbara-sensei, maybe? Maybe not? I mean, sensei's scary." Well, it wasn't as if he was seriously considering it. It didn't really matter that much. Ronta had said he'd be spending 6 days learning a dark fighting skill missing. Shihora had said she'd be spending 5 days on Shadow Pond, which belonged to her main focus, Thirst Magic, and then 2 days trying to learn the canon magic spell Ice Globe. Yum had seemed to have something in mind, and she'd planned to spend a total of 7 days on skills like hunting, tracking, pit trap, and bear trap. Because Mary couldn't use light magic in the Dusk Realm, she had chosen to spend 5 days learning the self-defense skill Revenge, while Kazaka had decided to spend 6 days learning the defensive swordsmanship techniques Guard and Tug of War. Haruhiro, Shihoru, and Yum had spent 7 days on training, Ranta and Kazako 6, and Mary 5. As for the Takis, Anasan and Tada had finally learned Sacrament. The others had each worked hard on their own training, then used their leftover time to do whatever. Tomorrow everyone would be meeting back up. Ranta was probably in Celestial Alley around now, womanizing. Haruhiro didn't know much about it, but Alterna had brothels. Was that what you'd call them? Places where you paid money for women to be with you, and there was no shortage of people who patronized them. In fact, Ranta had invited him to come along once. When he'd refused, Ranta had snapped at him. He'd apparently lacked the guts to go alone and had been trying to drag Haruhiro with him. If he'd wanted to go, he should have just held his head high and done it. However, Ranta just hadn't been able to push himself to take that step, and he no doubt still hadn't gone. He was probably at a bar with girls who would pour his drinks for him, drowning his sorrows, or out hitting on girls or something. Mary and Kazaku were, well, you know, they're probably off somewhere together. Of course they would be. They seem to be going out, I mean. I wonder if they're doing it. Not that I mind. Please, build a wonderful family for yourselves. Am I getting ahead of myself? Well, it could happen eventually. I feel like that could be a good thing. Maybe. The bell began to toll. It was the bell for 6 o'clock in the evening. The timekeeping bell in Alterna started ringing every 2 hours at 6 o'clock in the morning. At 6 o'clock in the evening, it would toll 7 times to inform people of the coming of night, then it would go to sleep until the next day. Shops in the marketplace would begin to close, while Celestial Alley would become more lively. Haruhiro stopped in front of the Yorozu Deposit Company. Hey, you late, yeah, Anasan said, puffing her cheeks up angrily and jumping. Maybe not, yeah? Because you're not actually late, yeah? But for date, the man has to come early. Yeah? Haruhiro bowed his head. I'm sorry. You not acting with straightness, yeah? You mean sincerity. With sincerity, yeah. Oh, I get it, Haruhiro said. She meant being straight with her, huh? I mean, I thought she was talking about the other kind of straightness. How embarrassing. Haruhiro hesitantly looked up at the tall girl who towered over Anasan. Hey. Yeah. Mimirin smiled, maybe? Her expression never changed much, so it was hard to tell. I've wanted to see you. Her words were direct enough there was no way to misunderstand. She was so direct that it made his stomach hurt. I see, he murmured. You Haruhiro, she demanded. Huh, me. Did you want to see me too? Haruhiro hung his head. It made him want to give a diplomatic response. If he did, that would have been easier. For the moment, at least. But he couldn't do that. Haruhiro raised his face, looking Mimirin in the eyes. Maybe not so much. Gasp, she said. Saying that in a deadpan voice doesn't help. I'm very hurt. My heart is broken. There, yeah. Anasan rubbed Mimirin's back, or rather her butt. He could see the tears welling up in Mimirin's eyes, and even Haruhiro had to be taken aback by that. No, hold on, huh? Where's Kikoa? He was supposed to be here today, too. There were circumferences? Anasan said, continuing to rub Mimirin's butt as she shrugged. Oh! No. Circumstances? That why Kikoa not here, yeah. With Kikoa, there would have been 4 of us and we could have had a productive time getting to know one another. That was why I said okay to this. In life, there is ups, there's downs. Yeah? Anna-san said. I don't get it. Bullshit, you need to understand a maiden's heart, darn it. Yeah, it's fine. Mimirin wiped the tears from her eyes using both of her index fingers. This isn't enough to discourage me. Be discouraged, please. Haruhiro did think that, but it wasn't like he wanted to break Mimirin's heart. If possible, he didn't want her to be hurt. She might be in someone else's party, but they were like allies, so he wanted to get along. At the very least, he didn't want it to be a strained atmosphere. He didn't want anything special, just for things to feel normal between them. However, Mimirin didn't feel the same way for some reason, and he had repeatedly received invitations to go out with her through Anna-san. At first, it had been for one-on-one meetings with Mimirin. Well, basically something like a date. It had been clear Anna-san was trying to get him to just go with the flow and hook up with her, so he'd politely declined. That still hadn't made Mimirin give up, and Anna-san had probably gotten upset by it, too, so he'd been asked on dates over and over. Ultimately, even Tokumune had asked him to please go on a date with her, just once. If he'd kept on stubbornly refusing, he'd figured he might rub people the wrong way, but Haruhiro could be pretty stubborn. He had given conditions. A one-on-one meeting was out of the question. Because, as he had already clearly told her, Haruhiro wasn't interested. If someone else was present, and it was strictly as friends, Haruhiro didn't hate Mimirin or anything, so he wouldn't have a problem with that. That was how it came to be that Mimirin, Anna-san, plus one other person would occasionally go out for food with Haruhiro, or they'd go on walks together. This time, because they were back in Alterna for the first time in a while, the suggestion had been that the four of them, Mimirin, Anna-san, Haruhiro, and Kikuwa, would go to a decent restaurant to get dinner together. There had been no reason for him to say no, so he'd accepted. Honestly, he'd still felt a little hesitant. But he couldn't deny they were starting to feel a little bit vaguely like friends, so maybe they could get through this fine? That was what he'd thought. Maybe he'd been being naive. He'd fallen right into their trap. He wasn't pleased. He wasn't angry either, though. Getting angry would only make him tired. Well, anyway, shall we get something to eat? Haruhiro asked. I'll eat. Mimirin gave a powerful nod. Whoa, thought Haruhiro. Mimirin's eyes are sparkling. Is she that happy? When someone else is that happy, it's hard not to be happy about it. But, well, I don't dislike her, you know? As a person. I do think she's pretty weird, though. She's too tall, which means I have to look up at her and my neck hurts, but that's not a major problem. The three of them headed towards a place Anna-san said she'd picked out. Surprisingly, the cook, who was also the proprietor, was an elf man. This restaurant was popular for its spicy meat and wide variety of vegetable dishes. It was a long, narrow restaurant and crowded, too, but they managed to get inside somehow. There was a small table in the back with four-legged chairs around it. Anna-san and Mimirin sat on one side, while Haruhiro sat across from them. The ordering was done by Anna-san, who really liked to be in charge on occasions like this. The herbal beer went down easier than normal beer. Every dish gave off a wonderful aroma that stimulated the appetite, and the flavor was quite good too. During the meal, Mimirin said nothing. Anna-san was talkative, though she always was. Also, Mimirin sat up straight, barely making any noise. The way she ate was very neat. Anna-san's eating was pretty rough. To be perfectly frank, her manners were atrocious. The truth was, Haruhiro couldn't stand people who were always dropping their food, knocking things flying, and chewing loudly. He didn't tell her off or frown at her, but he did wish she could do something about it. On that point, he had a favorable view of Mimirin. Honestly, he didn't hate her as a person. So, Anna-san, who seemed to have gotten a little tipsy, fixed her gaze on him, then let out a belch that smelled strongly of herbs. What on earth you not like about Mimirin? You are just a stupid Haruhiro. What the hell, cherry boy? What on earth, you mean? Haruhiro glanced over to gauge Mimirin's expression. Their eyes met. She was staring at him hard. Wait, that's what we're talking about? I'm ready to say let's just be friends, really. You may be fine with it, but Mimirin is not fine, yeah. Anna shouted. Figure that out, dummy. Understand? No understand, he said flatly. Why not? Dead or death. If those are my options, I'm dead either way. No witty comebacks. You answer. Anna-san banged on the table. What wrong with Mimirin, yeah? If you not have good reasons, I not forgive you, yeah. Anna-san, see calm down, Haruhiro muttered. How can I calm down, huh? Well, at least keep it quiet. Why you so calm? Fuck, you piss me off. I don't know what to say to you there. The restaurant grew quieter as Anna-san got more and more heated up. This was really awkward. Haruhiro loudly cleared his throat, rubbing his forehead. He didn't want to have this talk, but if he didn't give a serious answer, Anna-san wasn't going to stop. Well, I dunno, Haruhiro said. It's not. What is it? It's not that there's something wrong with her, or that I dislike her, or anything like that, you know. Then, Mimirin asked, leaning in, what? Haruhiro closed his eyes, rubbing them with both his hands. I'm not confident I can explain it all that well. I get the feeling. I lack the experience. It's the same for me, said Mimirin. And for Anna-san, too, yeah? I see. So it's like, you know? It's not a logical thing, right? This kind of stuff isn't. I mean, obviously, yeah? There are things like liking the person's face, or them having been kind to you, that sort of stuff. The reasons people, basically, fall in love and such? The triggers. In some cases, there may be one, but is that all there is to it? Maybe not. I love you, Haruhiro said Mimirin. You're right, there's no logic behind it. No, listen. He almost said, thank you, but he forced himself to stop. There was no question that he was feeling inconvenienced by it. If he thanked her, that would be a lie. Yeah, Haruhiro said. Somehow, well, yeah. Like, right, it's not what's not good about you. It's that I just don't have those sorts of feelings for you whatsoever, you know. It's bad of me to say that so bluntly. No, maybe it isn't? Of course you are bad, yeah. Oh, Mimirin. Anna-san lost her mind, trying to hug Mimirin around the shoulders, but, given their relative sizes, she couldn't possibly hug her. It was an impossible challenge. Give it your best shot, Anna-san, Haruhiro thought. Mimirin is still crying. But man, she sure looks like she's in anguish. When I look at her, it makes my chest hurt. That doesn't mean I'm going to give in to emotion, though. Anna-san started to tear up, too, and when she glared at him with her teary, reddened eyes, he honestly wanted to run away. Haruhiro is heartless. Such a cold-hearted man, yeah. Oh, sure, he said. I can't blame you for calling me that. You corn seed? Huh? Corn seed. Oh, I concede. Haruhiro asked. That's the word, yeah. How did you know? That amazing. Well, I'll have to admit, I'm amazed I got it myself, but that doesn't matter, yeah. Anna-san yelled. Of course it doesn't. No, Mimirin said with a sniffle. Haruhiro isn't cold-hearted. What? Anna-san shouted. Haruhiro isn't cold, said Mimirin. He's just not a liar. NGHH, Anna groaned, holding her head. Not a liar? But you're starting to act like a middle-aged man there, Anna-san, thought Haruhiro. He just doesn't say things that would leave a false impression. Mimirin bit her lip hard. He doesn't give me, whom he doesn't love, any hope. Gwaha. Anna-san started pulling out her hair, forcing herself to speak with a voice that sounded like she might start coughing up blood. Nimari Thayan, you not have to say all that, yeah? I understand it. Boo it. I love that about him, too. Oh, I love you. Nimrin stared at Haruhiro as the tears streamed down her face. So, please, let me keep you as a pet. No, wrong one. Go out with me. I'm sorry. I expected that response. Haruhiro went on hesitantly. Well, you know, even if the whole pet thing is kind of weird, I can see you're serious about this and, well, I can understand. But, while I comprehend it in my own way, still. But that's what makes it all the worse. Like, you know? I can't just say whatever. You idiot! Anna-san shouted, pointing her finger at Haruhiro. Are you stupid? You at the age when you want to do it all the time. Day and night you think about it. That's you, young. Why not just go out with her and do it? You can, can't you? You're in mating season. Yeah, you're getting a little lewd there, Anna-san, said Haruhiro. Shut up, yeah. You look. Mimirin's boobies. Boing. She have very good body. She does, yeah. You not want to sink your teeth into that. No, I'm not going to be doing that, said Haruhiro. I'm not Ranta. Well, he's all talk, too, so I doubt he'd actually do anything. Mimirin is head over heels for you. You mean head over heels. With her endless sexniques, she serve you endlessly, no doubt about it. Sexniques. Sexual techniques are sexniques, yeah. Special technique. You know? Yeah. Kind of. But you're saying it kind of loud. What's more, she is a virgin. Virgin. Not even had her first kiss yet. That's true. For some reason, Mimirin confirmed this with straight face. Was that an important point, maybe? Haruhiro didn't really get it, but there was one thing that seemed off to him if it was true. Huh? Then what about this special technique? I'll study. Mimirin nodded again. It's fine. Just leave it to Anna-san, yeah? Anna-san thumped one hand on her ample, though not so ample as Mimirin's, bosom. Anna-san, take her by the hand and teach her each and every technique there is. Yeah, you have a lot of experience. Then, Haruhiro asked hesitantly. Don't be silly, pervert boy. I'm obviously a fresh virgin, yeah? No, but then. Haha, Anna-san put on a bold smile and pinched her own earlobe. Anna-san knows so much about sex. I'm the kind of girl who comes along once in a century, you know? It will be easy. I see. In my imagination, I make more than 1,000,000 guys climax, you know? Maybe you're fantasizing a little too much. It was obviously a joke, yeah. Because Anna-san's a pure, proper, holy virgin. Okay, fine. Whatever. Haruhiro took a sip of his herbal beer and looked downwards. The inside of the restaurant wasn't silent like it had been a moment ago, but Haruhiro and the others were still drawing attention, and more than a few customers were listening in. Anna-san sure liked her dirty jokes. Haruhiro didn't especially hate them or anything, but he didn't like them all that much either. So, how about it? Anna-san took a long swig of her herbal beer, then let out a satisfied sigh. For now, you try going out with her? Try it? Not a bad deal, yeah? Because, with her nice body, you drown in dirty desire every day. Yeah, no, I'll pass. Fuck you. Anna-san flipped him the bird. No matter what they said, he wasn't going to cave in on this. Especially because they were his allies, but even if they weren't, he'd have felt the same. He wasn't keen on going out with someone he had no romantic feelings for. Or rather, Haruhiro felt it was impossible for him to do that. Even if she paid him, he'd feel that way. No, if he was offered money, that might make it even worse. Maybe I'm just being stubborn? He thought. I can't deny the possibility, but the point is that that's just how I am. Is there any? Mimirin started, then the tears started running again, and she wiped them with her hand. I'm sorry. For crying. No, he murmured. He didn't know why, but that made his heart skip a beat. Now why might that be? Why had his heart skipped a beat? Haruhiro himself didn't know at all. Why you don't need to apologize. It would help if you'd stop crying. It's not like I want to make you cry. I don't want you to cry. This is a first for me, said Mimirin. I'm so sad. It hurts. Sorry. Don't apologize. It's not your fault, Haruhiro. I just went and fell in love with you on my own. Well, yeah, that's true, but can I continue with my question? Mimirin asked. Oh, go ahead. Is there any possibility? Of what? Even if you can't do it now. Someday. You mean at some point in the future? He asked. Yes. HRM. Haruhiro wanted to writhe and squirm, but he desperately restrained himself. I'm not sure. That's a really tough one. I'm stumped. He felt that, maybe, telling her no, at no point in the future would it ever be possible might be the kind thing to do here. It was wrong for her to fall in love with someone like Haruhiro in the first place. Time wasn't infinite. Even now, it was ticking by. It wasn't as if he didn't think she should give up on him and find someone else, but, was that something for Haruhiro to decide? Mimirin, in her own way, had found something appealing in Haruhiro. As a result, she had fallen in love with him. Did Haruhiro have any right to deny those feelings? Having worked alongside the talkies, he had gotten a sense for what Mimirin was like. True, she was strange. She was a mage, but she couldn't ditch the habits she'd picked up as a warrior. It scared him when he saw her running up front and waving her sword around. However, she was strong, and she was good with a sword, too. She also cared deeply for her comrades. Occasionally, she was adorable. He didn't really hate her as a person. If anything, he actually liked her. The way she came straight at him and did nothing but push her affection on him was what he had a problem with. If not for that, honestly, he would have had no issues with her. He even had a positive view of Mimirin's personality. At the very least, he liked her enough that he wanted to respect her thoughts and feelings. Haruhiro didn't know what to do about Mimirin's affection and thought, if only we were just friends, that would be easier, but even so. Wasn't it wrong for Haruhiro to try to change her values or feelings to get rid of her bothersome feelings for him? After all, Haruhiro was only thinking about his own convenience. Besides, if he were to tell her there was no possibility of them ever getting together, sure, he could say that, but wasn't it a lie? No one knew what tomorrow might bring. It was questionable whether they'd even still be alive. Despite that, might it be best to tell that lie? Or should he be honest to a fault? What was right? What should he do for Mimirin? For Mimirin? Was Haruhiro really thinking of Mimirin? Wasn't he just pretending to care for her? Wasn't he being a hypocrite? Can I give it to you straight? Haruhiro asked at last. Well, I'm going to. I don't know what's possible. I don't know the future. That's not just me. It's the same for anybody. Just right now, honestly, I think you're an interesting person. It's fun to watch you, and I don't mind talking at all, but I can't consider a romantic relationship. I really do feel like, can't we just be friends? I can't do anything more than that right now. Maybe, some years from now, I might decide I do like you that way, but I don't want to think about that. It's not reliable. Even if I started feeling that way, you might already have a boyfriend by then, and there would be nothing I could do about it. It's a matter of timing. I can only speak for now, sorry. I have my hands full just worrying about the present. Mimirin stared intently into Haruhiro's eyes, listening closely. It wasn't that Haruhiro didn't find that intimidating, but he did his best not to look away. When he finished, all of his strength left him. I must have really sleepy eyes right now, he thought. He wasn't sleepy, but he was exhausted. I understand, Mimirin said, her whole face twitching. She narrowed her eyes, raising both corners of her lips in what was probably a smile. She understood. Thank goodness. Haruhiro closed his eyes and let out a sigh. That's a load off my shoulders. You know, my body's not that big, and my belly isn't either, so there's a limit to how much I can carry. I can only carry so many responsibilities. I lead the party, and I do my job as a thief. That's the limit for me. I don't have the time to think or do anything about other stuff. That's right. Like romance. I don't have time for it. The same goes for Mary. If I'd had the room to do so, I'd have said something. Yeah. Maybe not. No way. It wouldn't have happened. Never. I couldn't have done it. It's something to be grateful for, he realized. Despite his inadequacies, Mimirin had fallen in love with him. This kind of good fortune probably didn't come along often. It might never come again. This could be the last time. Rejecting it might be a terrible waste. But what else could he do? It was true he didn't feel that way for her now. He really couldn't lie about that. He didn't want to deceive himself or to deceive Mimirin. He couldn't. Well, there you have it, he said. But I love you. Come again, he asked. When he opened his eyes, Mimirin was staring at Haruhiro. Without a speck of doubt in them, her eyes were serious and filled with sincerity. Right now, I love you. I love Haruhiro. Is that wrong? Phew, Anna-san whistled, shrugging to the point that her shoulders touched her head. Mimirin sure is stubborn. Like a rock, yeah? No, like steel, maybe? Haruhiro looked down at the ground and scratched the back of his head. No. Is it wrong? I'm not the one to ask. It's not a matter of it being wrong or not. I have no right to tell her not to. That's Mimirin's choice. I have to respect that. In the end, saying, thank you for understanding. Well, let's be friends, then would be just a convenient way of handling it for Haruhiro. Whether Mimirin accepted it or not was up to her. In the same way, whether Haruhiro accepted Mimirin's feelings or not was up to him, but Haruhiro couldn't change Mimirin's feelings. Mimirin's feelings belong to Mimirin alone. It's not wrong, he said. 4. Paths diverging beneath a different sky. When everyone met back up, they went shopping. Kuzaku bought a new shield and helmet to replace the ones that had taken a considerable beating. Mary bought a staff with more attack power. As for Ranta's betrayer MK2, a name that, of course, stupid Ranta had given his new sword, he haggled the price down as low as it would go. For the rest of the group, they just bought their daily necessities. It was way more fun than they had been expecting. They could get their hands on a lot of stuff at the Lonesome Field outpost, and they hadn't been left wanting for much, but Alterna had the better selection of goods. It was no contest. Just looking around at all of the stuff got them excited. Even for Haruhiro, who was always being criticized for being boring, a downer, a wet blanket, and miserly. The experience of browsing the stock here was overwhelming, and there were times he felt like he might end up buying all sorts of things he didn't really need, but he desperately restrained himself. When they left Alterna, they missed it a little. They traveled west across the Quiquin Plains. Along the way, they camped out once, traveling roughly 35 kilometers on foot to reach the Lonesome Field outpost at around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If they entered the Dusk Realm and reached the settlement today, they would be able to start work as soon as tomorrow morning. Haruhiro's party and the talkies had intended to do exactly that, but in the Lonesome Field outpost, they ran into Shinohara. Hey Haruhiro, the man said. Tokumune too. Shinohara hadn't changed a bit since the first time Haruhiro had met him. He had a gentle-looking face, an easygoing demeanor, and he wore a white cape. The cape had a crest with 7 stars and an X shape. The mark of Clan Orion. Haruhiro had noticed other men and women wearing Orion's white capes scattered around the lonesome field outpost. Shinohara wasn't alone. He had the short-haired, narrow-eyed warrior Hayashi with him, as well as a bespectacled man with a crew cut. Hayashi nodded to Mary, who returned the gesture with a slight nod and a smile. Hayashi looked surprised. Wait, huh? Haruhiro was startled, but pleased to see Mary able to greet her old comrade with a smile. He suppressed the cynical thought. Yeah, and I'll bet that's thanks to him, too, huh? Rubbing his cheek with his fingertip. Shinohara, are you guys pulling out of the Dusk Realm? The truth is, we're not sure, the man said. Huh? Kikoa's eyes went wide. He jumped into the air and waved his arms around. What? Did something happen? Was there a penninghap? What's a penninghap? The guy with the crew cut and glasses asked. Wow, you're gonna call me on that. Really? Like, totally? Kikoa yelled. Kikoa, you annoying, yeah. Ana-san slapped Kikoa upside the head. Well, Haruhiro thought it was a pain, but that he ought to explain at least. A penninghap is a happening. It's like he's scrambled the word, I guess. Oh! The crew cut guy suddenly started chuckling. I get it. He thinks it's funny? It's really not. And? Tokumune asked, flashing his white teeth. Did something happen, Shino? Shihoru repeated under her breath dubiously. Because he's Shinohara. Ranta, the piece of crap, shouted. That's why he's Shino, huh? Give him a san at least. He needs a san, Haruhiro told them off, appalled. Ranta, the piece of trash, who kissed up to the powerful and crushed the weak, quickly got down and did a kowtow. I'm sorry. I got carried away. No, it was just the way we talk, or the spur of the moment, you could say. Like the way you talk about famous people without honorifics. I'm not bothered by it. It was the mature response you would have expected from Shinohara. Inui's one eye shone ominously. Well, not that he actually had just one eye. He was just hiding the other one with his eye patch. He's just Shinohara, but he gets to be called Shino, huh? Whoa, Inui, you're being even ruder than Ranta, Haruhiro thought. I've never heard it before, Mimirin said, blinking. Huh? She's never heard that nickname before? I just came up with it now, Tokumune said with a wink and a thumbs up. It's the perfect nickname for him, am I right? There's no denying it, yeah? Ana-san gave him a beaming smile and returned his thumbs up. It's cuter than Shinoharadan and Shinoharakam, at least, Yume added nonsensically, crossing her arms and nodding to herself. What? Tada frowned. Are you all stupid? Every last one of you? Shinoharadan is better. Kuzaku and Mary looked to one another with awkward smiles, then quickly looked away. What? Why were you looking away? Go ahead, I don't mind. Why not just go off in your own little world together? You're not gonna? Oh, I see. Not like I care. I'm fine with anything, really, Shinohara said. Even after all this nonsense, he was an adult, and he was laughing along happily with a smile that wasn't forced. Now, as for the answer to your question. Yes, something happened. To cut to the chase, the Dusk Realm is becoming less appealing. Allow me to provide the rest of the explanation, the man with the crew cut and glasses butted in. Wait, who is this guy? I've seen him before, I have, right? I don't know his name, though. While Haruhiro was tilting his head and looking at the guy questioningly, the guy with the crew cut turned in Haruhiro's direction and grinned. My apologies for the late introduction. I am Kimura of Orion. Oh! Haruhiro reflexively bowed. Thank you. That's very kind of you. I know who you are, said Kimura. You're Mr. Haruhiro. The one there is Mr. Ranta. A mess. Yoon. A mess. Mary. A mess. Shihoru. Mr. Kazaku. Mr. Tokumune and Mr. Tada Mr. Inui, Anna-san. MS. Memori and Mr. Kikuwa. Am I correct? He sure likes addressing people with MS. And Mr., but he still addressed Anna-san with A, san, like he ought to. This Kimura guy is no ordinary customer, I guess, Haruhiro thought. Kimura-san and Shinohara-san are bosom buddies, Hayashi explained. Possum buddies? Yum asked. Yum, that's wrong. Moron, it's booby buddies, obviously, yelled a piece of trash. Ranta, that's wrong too. Chest friends, huh? Heh, Inui was wrong too. They're syrupy friends, yeah? Anna-san's was way out there. Whoa! Like, they get into all sort of juicy and sticky situations together. Kikoa shrieked. What was Kikoa getting so excited for? Gyudon is juicy, Mimorin nodded. There is one of those, though. A Gyudon place. In Alterna. But there's no beef in it for some reason. Bosom buddies. Mary seemed to be thinking about it deeply. What's that mean? Oh, Kazako didn't seem to know either. Bosom buddies, huh? Yeah, that's a bit tough to define. You don't really use the term often. I'm not surprised they wouldn't know it. Incidentally, Haruhiro had heard it before, and he could sort of guess at the meaning. Probably, it meant they were close, or something like that, right? Close confidants, that sort of thing. Shinohara and Kimura were? They made a bit of an odd couple. Heh. Kimura let out a mysterious laugh that caused his shoulder to shake. Me, Shinohara's bosom buddy? You exaggerate. We're simply friends. Of course there's none of that BL stuff going on between us. Isn't that right, Shinohara? Yeah. Shinohara's response was still completely friendly. If there were BL stuff going on between Kimura and me, that'd just be gross. You ha ha ha. Kimura laughed so hard, he had to grasp his belly. BL is short for boys love, Hayashi was quick to explain. I know that much already, dummy. Anna-san shouted at him. What a chaotic mess, Haruhiro thought to himself. This conversation is going nowhere. No, it would be more correct to say it had been going nowhere. After a good long laugh, Kimura efficiently and logically explained what had happened. It was thought to have started 5 days ago when Iron Knuckle had attacked another cultist base and massacred the cultists there. The assault itself had been a success, but 2 days later, which was to say 3 days ago, there had been a change in the Dusk Realm. Incredibly, a giant god, a humanoid creature so massive it seemed to touch the heavens, had come and begun to chase after humans wherever it found them. There had been sighting of the giant god off in the distance before. Haruhiro and the others had seen it a number of times themselves. However, the giant god had never approached them, and it had seemed to be a fair distance away from the initial hill. They had heard that far to the southwest of the initial hill there was a basin, the great cauldron of the gods, and the giant god wandered around in that area. They had also heard that the ones who discovered the great cauldron of the gods and given it its name were Lala and Nono. The giant god was so huge that it felt like it couldn't be real, and it was clear that messing with it would be dangerous. That was why, naturally, no one had been dumb enough to try, and even if it saw people, nothing really came of it. It was seen as essentially harmless. However, that had suddenly changed, apparently. It was apparently because no one had actually fought the giant god yet. That was why they couldn't decide if it seriously wanted a fight or not. It was hard to imagine anyone was reckless enough, or rather, stupid enough to challenge a creature that huge to a fight. The moment they realized, oh crap, it's here, anyone would run away. Once they got a certain distance away, it wouldn't pursue, but what the exact distance was wasn't clear. If they had to be on guard against it at all times, that made hunting for cultists and giants all the more exhausting. Oh, this is getting bad, they had decided, so Orion had temporarily withdrawn from the Dusk Realm. The situation might change, so it wasn't permanent. They decided to leave just one party behind while Shinohara and the others went and made money elsewhere for the time being. Iron Knuckle again? Ronta shouted loudly. Those assholes. Don't they think about how their actions affect everyone else? It's a pain in the ass, that's what it is, damn it. You're one to talk, Haruhiro muttered. Huh. What did you say about me, Peru? Shihoru pointed off into the distance. Someone from Iron Knuckle. I'm Zoe. Ronta immediately jumped into the air and did a kowtow. I didn't mean it just now. Seriously, it wasn't me. Our Haruhiro was saying it before, so... There he goes, subtly shoving the blame off on me. Subtly, though, Haruhiro muttered. Wha? Ronta screamed. They're not there? No Iron Knuckles. Shihoru, you tricked me. You secret, Saga-titted bomber. Don't call me weird names. Shut up, Saga-tits. For your crime, I sentence you to publicly change your clothes. Huh. Inui wore a smile of irredeemable evil on his old man face. I, too, would like to burn that scene into my memory. However, I alone should be the one to see it. Nobody's going to be seeing anything. Shihoru wrapped her arms around her body defensively, glaring at Inui like she was something filthy. You sure are a lively bunch. Shinohara was all smiles. They're just annoying. Tada adjusted the position of his glasses with his index finger. What a bunch of dung beetles. The dung beetle insult was a bit much, but Haruhiro couldn't have agreed more. The giant god. Huh. Tokumune looked to Haruhiro. What do you want to do? Was there anything they even could do? Considering the nature of the volunteer soldier trade, there was no way they could get by without taking any risks. That said, for Haruhiro's part, he wanted to avoid every avoidable risk as much as he possibly could. They were, technically, the discoverers of the Dusk Realm, so it was disappointing to have to do so, but it might be best to consider other options. That was his opinion, and he said as much. Now, as for the response he got, here's how things turned out. Wee wow. Up on top of that initial hill, Ronta let out a strange cry, his eyes wide. It was the time of day when normally the sun would be setting, but here in the Dusk Realm, there was no morning and no night. It was always the same, the many-colored sky that spread out as far as the eye could say. Beneath that indescribable, otherworldly dusk sky, a supermassive, lanky giant god was taking a leisurely stroll. How far away do you figure that thing is? Kazaku asked with a sigh. It's hard to get a sense for distance. H or MM, Anasan was riding on Tokumune's shoulders. I say 80 kilometers? Around that? Can't be that far, Haruhiro couldn't help but point out. 5 kilometers. Maybe, why think? Yume squinted at the giant god. 10 kilometers, maybe? 20, maybe? Yume's having a hard time figuring it out, too. Huh. It's small, but it's real big, huh? That's contradictory, but it sure does feel that way, Shihoru said with a nod, standing next to Yume. Yeah, seriously. Taking Yume's theory and assuming that it was a maximum of 20 kilometers away, that was pretty far off. If it was 20 kilometers off in that direction, even an extra-large, 200-meter-tall giant would be a speck in the distance. Even that giant god wasn't so large that they had to look up at it from where they were. But it was huge. That wasn't a size any living creature should be. It was a mountain. Not just a hill, it was a mountain. He recalled the first time they had seen the giant god. It had been when they were returning from rescuing the Takis after they'd tried to steal a march on them. At that time, Haruhiro had thought it was awfully large, given that it had to be several hundred meters away from them. Several hundred meters? Hardly. That time, it easily had to have been at least this far away. No, farther. It was like Kazaka said. The giant god was so big, it messed with your sense of distance. It's pretty fast, huh? Tada muttered. It's got some long legs. Kikoa sounded impressed for some reason. Like, way too long. Its movements are surprisingly sharp, too. Wow. The giant god was south of the initial hill, moving east to west. Its movements didn't look all that sharp to Haruhiro, but they could make out the movements of its legs even from here, so it was by no means slow. Mimirin sucked in her breath, pointing to the southeast. There's something there. What is that? Mary had a grim look on her face. Kazaku was looking sideways at her. That looks like a big one, too. Tokumune licked his lips. Well, yeah, Haruhiro said. I'm sure it is. Haruhiro rubbed his belly. His stomach hurt a little. This goes for all the talkies, but why does he sound like he's having so much fun? Why is he so blatantly excited? I know. That's the kind of people they are. I know that, but I still get fed up with it. I'm used to that, though, you know? I mean, we have Ranta. Yeah. It was thanks to Ranta that he'd been able to get along with the talkies so far. That was definitely part of how he had managed it. If he hadn't already been used to Ranta, even communicating with the talkies would have been difficult. The Ranta effect sure was something. If people had a bad side, they had to have a good side, too. There could be no shadows without light. However, he could also flip the theory around and say that because he was too used to Ranta, they had ended up working with the talkies, and that was getting them into real trouble. He could conclude that, in the end, Ranta was a plague upon the party. And really, he had always been something incredibly close to a plague upon them. The big thing they saw out there, it was white and writhing. It might not be as big as the giant god, but it was pretty big. What on earth was it? It wasn't humanoid. He could say that much for certain. Is it an octopus? Or something like that? Although I've never been to the ocean in Grimgar, I know what kind of creature an octopus is. It's not really like an octopus. But somehow, I can tell it's got a bunch of tentacle-like things, and it's like it's moving them around to walk. No, maybe it's like a mass of tentacles? From this distance, it was hard to say. It was much closer than the giant god. 2 kilometers, 3 maybe. Or perhaps only 1. It's cute. Mimirin was staring passionately in its direction. Haruhiro, Shiharu, Yume, Mary, Kazaku, and even Ranta were shocked, but the talkies looked completely unfazed. This is the problem with Mimirin. Haruhiro hesitantly raised his hand. Tokumune looked to him with a Now that they'd seen that thing those things with their own eyes, surely even the talkies would agree with Haruhiro. Or rather, they'd have the same opinion as him. Why don't we head back, he said. Those things are bad news. No matter how you look at it. You moron. Ranta rounded on him. You call yourself a man, saying stuff like that? Do you really have a pair of balls? I'm asking if you've got a pair of balls hanging between your legs, you sissy. Does that have anything to do with it? Haruhiro asked. Whether I'm a man or a woman? Of course it does. It does, doesn't it, Tokumune-san? I dunno. Tokumune cocked his head to the side. Maybe not? It sure doesn't. Ranta was quick to change his mind. Ha ha ha. There's no way it would matter, would it? That's why I said so, Panpyrorin. It doesn't matter if you're male or female or if you have balls. You really are a piece of crap who doesn't understand a thing, aren't you? Balls, 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 shut up already, yeah. Anasan snapped at Ranta from up on top of Tokumune's head. You too, vulgar, yeah. We have many untainted ladies here. You're the last one I want telling me I'm vulgar. Even I'm not as bad as you. Do you know? Ouch! No. Wait, what you mean? You tiny dicked, smegma bastard. Anyway, moving on, Haruhiro said, wiping Anasan's spittle from his face. Can we go back? If we go now, we can make it back to the Lonesome Field outpost today. We can decide what we'll do from tomorrow on once we're there. Huh? Tokumune blinked. Why? Hey Haruhiro. Tada put his hand on Haruhiro's forehead. Doesn't seem like you've got a fever. I don't. Haruhiro brushed Tada's hand away. If anyone here has a fever, I have to say it's you people, he muttered under his breath, despite not intending to. For some reason, Inui burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha. Ah ha 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 ha. Hold on, he's roaring with laughter. What's wrong with this guy? Is he even human? Maybe he isn't? He's scaring me. He's really scaring me. Listen, Haruhiro, Tokumune said, putting a hand on Haruhiro's shoulder while Anasan was still riding on his own. I've got a surprisingly high opinion of you. If I say it's surprising, does it come off as rude, maybe? Nah, it's fine. Call it surprising or whatever. Well, anyway, you're plain and you've got basically no passion or spirit, but you're calm and you've got reasonably good decision-making skills, so it's reassuring to have you as an ally. That's because you've got something that we lack. Flattery's not going to get you anything from me, you know. You're kidding, right? Tokumune asked. No, I'm serious. Well, I don't hate that about you. You don't, huh? I am happy to hear that, though, you know. As much as anyone would be. He might not look it, but Haruhiro was happy in his own Haruhiro way. Probably. Though, that had nothing to do with the matter at hand. So, what about it? He asked. I rate your skills highly, and I like you, but sometimes I think, huh? You guys don't just make me think, huh? Sometimes, you make me think it all the time. If he told them that straight up, it would probably just be a headache, so Haruhiro kept his mouth shut. Tokumune flashed him a glimpse of those shiny white teeth. Our goal is already decided, right? So what do you mean, we're turning back? I'm not sure I understand. Our goal? Haruhiro repeated. Yeah. What's that? A goal is something that you aim for and try to accomplish as part of your work, right? No, I know that. I understand what the word goal means. Well, what do you want to know? Tokumune asked. What this goal you think is already decided is. Isn't it obvious? Tokumune gestured with his chin. We're taking that thing out, right? Wah. Haruhiro staggered. What is this guy saying? Well, it did seem like something he'd say. But still, there's no way that's happening. He's crazy, totally crazy. What kind of thought process could possibly bring him to that conclusion? Shiharu, Mary, and Kazaku were all shuddering. Yum was just sort of staring blankly. She didn't seem to have any clue what was going on. Ranta, being the hopeless moron that he was, actually looked excited. The Takis were utterly unperturbed. Kikuo was doing a little dance with Ranta. Have they mistaken this for some kind of festival? They're hopeless. I mean, come on. When he says that thing, he means that thing, right? Either the giant god or the bizarre creature, right? No matter how he thought about it or didn't think about it, it was impossible, right? That much was self-evident, wasn't it? This was the sort of thing that was part of the collective understanding that all humans had, something every person was aware of, wasn't it? It was, right? Yeah, it was. Haruhiro was right. He couldn't be wrong. So, what now? At last, the time had come. It was here. He'd suspected it would come eventually. Not that he had wanted it to. He had hoped it wouldn't. The Takis were a bunch of weirdos and they were a real mess, but they were fun people to be with. If you were to ask him if it was because he could use them, to be way too frank, yes, that was one aspect of it. None of the Takis were particularly mercenary. They weren't the calculating sort who hung around with people or helped them because they had something to gain. That didn't mean he could trust them implicitly, but the Takis would probably never stab Haruhiro in the back again. They weren't the type of people who would deviate from whatever code of honor they held. Still, there might come a day where they parted ways. Haruhiro had worried it might come. He was ready to accept that the talkies might drag them into situations that caused them some pain. These were the talkies, after all. If he didn't accept at least that much, the alliance wasn't going to work. But that only applied to pain they could recover from. There were limits. If they were going to take on those things, he had to be ready for more than just pain. Major damage, casualties, losses, he had to be prepared for death. If they spontaneously found themselves in a situation where fighting them was the only option, that would be one thing. However, deliberately throwing themselves into that sort of peril was absolutely reckless. If they discussed it as a party, others might disagree. That's why he wouldn't do that. This was going to be entirely Haruhiro's choice. He'd already decided. They were going to split up with the talkies. He wouldn't say something naive like, "Let's work together again," if the chance comes up. That would be selfish reasoning, meaning, you can count us out when it's dangerous, but if it's not dangerous, we're okay with joining in. Sometimes working with them and sometimes not wasn't something Haruhiro wanted to engage in. He looked Tokumune in the eye. "I'm sorry," he was about to say. Suddenly, beneath his clothes, that thing he kept in constant contact with him started to vibrate. Whoa. In shock, Haruhiro completely forgot what he had been about to do. What was it again, anyway? Right, before that, he had to deal with this first. That thing was hanging from his neck on a chain like a pendant. When he stuffed his hand down his collar and pulled it out, the lower end was shining green. It was an object like a black, flat stone. But this was no ordinary stone. "What's that?" Tokumune raised an eyebrow. This is..." While Haruhiro was deciding whether to explain or not, the thing, the receiver, began to vibrate and produce sound. Not just sound, a voice. "Members of the Daybreakers, are you listening? This is Soma." Anasan let out a bizarre cry of surprise from up on Tokumune's shoulders, her eyes popping out of her skull. Did he say Soma? Tada adjusted the position of his glasses. By Soma, he means the Soma, right? Kikoa looked ready to start dancing with glee at any second. "Somatic," Mimirin mumbled something irrelevant. For some reason, Inui drew his sword and showed off a practice swing. Haruhiro looked to Ranta, Shiharu, Yume, Mary, and Kazaku. They hadn't told the talkies that they were a sad stain on the membership list of the Daybreakers. Ranta had wanted to boast about it, but Haruhiro had made him keep quiet. "I dunno. Honestly, it's still hard to believe. We have the receiver as proof, so there's no way it was a dream. Still, I just can't quite see us as members of the Soma's Daybreakers. It just doesn't feel real. I mean, Soma's never contacted us. I don't know much about the Daybreakers either. Even if you ask me to believe it, isn't it kind of hard to?" It was hard. "We plan to return to the Lonesome Field outpost tomorrow night," said Soma's voice. Still, when he heard Soma's voice like this, he could believe it. He had to. "I repeat. We plan to return to the Lonesome Field outpost tomorrow night. If you can make it there, please come. I want to see you occasionally." "Lilia, did you want to say anything?" "Why are you asking me?" her voice cried. "Just thought I would." "Can't you?" "It's not that I can't, just..." "I see. You can't, huh?" "I can. Please, hand me the sender." "Sure," Soma said. This was followed by the sound of Lilia clearing her throat. "I have nothing in particular to say, but for many of you, it has been a long time since we've met. Look forward to it. No, I do not look forward to it, but you are free to feel as you will. Do as you please. That is all." The receiver stopped vibrating and the green light vanished. Haruhiro sighed, looking to gauge Tokumune's reaction. Tokumune was deep in thought. What on earth was he thinking? Haruhiro couldn't imagine. About this, Haruhiro fumbled for words. Well, what can I say? If we're doing it anyway, why not invite Soma along? Tokumune asked. Huh? To hunt the giant god. Come again? Soma'd probably be up for it if we invited him along, said Tokumune. What? Huh? Wait, hold on. You and Soma-san know each, huh? We enlisted around the same time, and yeah, you could say we know each other, I guess. We've gone for drinks a number of times. No, but Haruhiro was at a loss for words. But what? What is it? Like, what should I do? What's going to happen here? 5. My natural self. Whatever the case might be, Haruhiro had been wanting to meet with Soma. Well, he also felt like he didn't want to see him, but that was because he didn't feel he was worthy to, and he did still want to meet with him. Soma, renowned as the mightiest of all volunteer soldiers, Kamuri, who was generous and powerful, Lilia, the beautiful elven sword dancer, Shima, the insanely sexy shaman everyone called Big Sis Pingo, the creepy necromancer called the Devil Child for his childlike appearance, and Zenmai, the flesh golem that he created. None of them were normal. Each one gave off an exceptional aura, and they were, in fact, way ahead of the rest. Even from a distance, they were a sight to behold. To put it in somewhat grandiose terms, Soma and his crew were living, walking legends. This wasn't just a chance to see these people. It might be a chance to talk to them. No, not might be. It was. After all, Haruhiro and the others were in the Daybreakers, too. That said, he needed to think about it calmly. That was what he told himself, but oh, man, they could meet Soma and the others. Oh, man, seriously, what should they do? What should they talk about? How should they greet him? What if he'd forgotten them? Yeah, that probably wouldn't have happened, but still, you never knew. Despite all appearances to the contrary, when they interacted with him directly, Soma had been a bit of an airhead. He might have completely forgotten Haruhiro and the others. These were the sorts of thoughts that raced through Haruhiro's head. Tokumune was planning to hunt the giant god and wanted to get Soma and his group mixed up in the action. That was something Haruhiro couldn't just ignore. He needed to do something, but first they needed to head back to the Lonesome Field outpost. They could talk about whether or not that was a good idea during the time it took for Soma to get there. He was gonna do that. He totally was. He was, okay? Really, he meant it. And so, having made it back to the Lonesome Field outpost, they decided they should get something to eat in the back streets. While Haruhiro was standing in line for one of the stalls, thinking, okay, I'm gonna say something, I'll bring it up, definitely, an unfamiliar man spoke to him. You're Haruhiro-kun, right? Yes, why? He definitely didn't know this old guy. The guy looked to be around 40 or so, maybe. He was nothing if not an old man from Haruhiro's perspective, but he seemed pretty incredible. For starters, he was well built. He must have stood over 180 centimeters tall. He wasn't just tall, though. He was broad and thick, too. He had a gentle face, with wrinkles from smiling that reached his eyes, and his calm, low voice gave off a favorable impression, but somehow he was threatening. Judging by his armor and the shield he carried, he was a paladin. The old guy had company. One of his companions was short and slender, a man who, unsurprisingly, was also in his 40s. He looked like an artist of some sort and was wearing a priest's outfit. Next, there was a mage who looked to be in her 30s. She was older than Haruhiro, but not the kind of person he'd have felt right calling ma'am. She was incredibly beautiful. The woman standing next to that incredible beauty was huge. She reminded him of Kajiko of the Wild Angels, only she was way older than Kajiko. She must have been in her 30s, too. She wore a massive sword slung over her back. She was a warrior, no doubt. The remaining two were. Haruhiro opened his eyes wide despite himself. They weren't human. The two of them were both men, but otherwise they were contrasting figures. One had a short, barrel-like body. Not fat, though. He was a mass of muscle. No, a mass of muscle and beard and body hair, to be fully accurate. Much larger than his hairy, boulder-like body was the powerful-looking and terrifying axe he carried. He was a dwarf. The other was the opposite of a dwarf. He was slender. He was similar in height to Haruhiro, maybe a little taller. He looked like a beautiful and fair-skinned young boy. He was very pale, and the color of his hair and eyes seemed not so much bright as thin. He had a somewhat sharp look in his eyes, looking stubborn. He carried a bow and quiver, so maybe he was an archer. The thing to take note of was his ears. Long and pointed. He was an elf. Whoa-ah-ah-ah. Kikuwa suddenly let out a strange cry. An older paladin, a priest, a mage, a female warrior, and a dwarf. Could you possibly be Hayam? Akira-san, Wait. Akira, Ronta whispered and then immediately got down and kowtowed. I am very sorry. How clumsy of me. I accidentally called you just plain, Akira. I'm so sorry, Akira-san. Please, overlook this mistake. What a funny boy, said the 30-something beauty with a laugh. Ronta's cheeks turned a little red. Haha. I'm a funny boy. Hahaha. Akira-san, Haruhiro covered his mouth with his hands. Wait, you don't mean that, Akira-san? Soma and his group were living, walking legends. Naturally, as walking legends, they walked around places. That meant that, although they were legendary, they actually existed, and if you were lucky, you might pass by them somewhere. In fact, before Haruhiro and his party had ended up joining the Daybreakers by chance, they had once had Komori treat them to a round of drinks at Sherry's Tavern. But Akira-san was different. Any volunteer soldier who didn't know Akira-san's name had to have been living under a rock. He was that famous, but Akira-san was far more distant than Soma and his group. From what Haruhiro had heard, before Soma and his group had made their name, Akira-san and his party had long been seen as the strongest volunteer soldiers. When Soma and his party had appeared, Akira-san had recognized their skills and praised them as the strongest. That was what had cemented their reputation. That said, it had done nothing to diminish Akira-san's dignity. For instance, there were some volunteer soldiers who boasted, I could take Soma in a one-on-one fight and win. In other words, there were volunteer soldiers who thought themselves his equals, whether they said it aloud or not. Influential clans like Iron Knuckle and the Berserkers felt especially competitive towards Soma. So while many volunteer soldiers praised Soma as the strongest, his position as such was by no means absolute. That was the difference between him and Akira-san. No volunteer soldier would compare themselves to Akira-san. It would be presumptuous for them to even think about whether they were stronger or weaker than Akira-san. To put it in extreme terms, it would be like comparing your height against a mountain. It was natural for humans to be shorter than the mountains, and strange to even attempt to make the comparison. Akira-san wasn't so much on another level as in another class altogether. Akira-san had left, saying, I'm getting old, and then casually pushed the title of strongest off onto Soma and his party. Then, one day, he had set off on a journey with his comrades, never to be seen again. That was the sort of unverifiable story, practically a legend, that Haruhiro had heard about him. Now they were saying this man was Akira-san? This old man? Tokumune blinked. Man, it really is Akira-san. I've met you before, said Akira-san, or the old man who supposedly was him, flashing Tokumune a wonderful smile. Tokumune-kun. Tadakun and Inui-kun. I believe it's my first time meeting those young men and women. Hey, Tada said. And then the guy who looked like he had common sense at first glance, but was more arrogant than anyone, bowed his head. Heh. Inui grinned. It's an honor. I'm Kikikawa, man. It's a meet pleasure to you. No, that's not it. It's a pleasure to meet you. Me Anna-san, yeah. You can call me Anna, too, though, okay? I'm Memori. Oh, wow. Haruhiro was stunned. The Takis were acting all meek and quiet. In contrast, Shiharu, Yume, Mary, Kazaku, and even Ranta, who was on the ground kowtowing, were all stiff and nervous. Yume wasn't the type to let someone's name bother her, but she must have sensed something from Akira-san and his group. It wasn't oppressive by any means, but it was something. Like, they sure are adults, or something like that. Although Akira-san was probably old enough to be their father, so they were clearly the children here. But it wasn't just the age difference. It was experience. It was their weight, breadth, and depth as individuals. There was just too great a gap between them in all of those things. They could sense that clearly, but without having it feel like it was being rubbed in. Akira-san was natural. That just made him more incredible. It's a bit embarrassing to give my name at this point, but Akira-san said, extending his right hand, I'm Akira. Oh! Yeah. Haruhiro wiped his right hand on his cloak, wiped it again, and then took Akira-san's hand. Nice to meet you. I am Haruhiro. It's a pleasure, said Akira-san, shaking his hand. A handshake. I'm shaking hands with the Akira-san. His hand is big, warm, dry, powerful, and gentle. I could probably brag about this, huh? To whom is the question, though? No, hold on. There are other questions here, too. Wait, huh? Why would someone like you be looking for someone like me? Haruhiro asked. I heard about you from Soma, Akira-san explained like it was no big deal. From Soma-san? Yeah. You all came here to meet with Soma, too, right? Huh? Oh, yes, well. You're right. Huh? Us, too. Wait. I'm Go. The short man in a priest's outfit produced a black, rectangular stone from his pocket. It's inconvenient that this is about all we have as proof of membership, isn't it? That's... Shihora gasped. It's a receiver. Yume cried, clapping her hands to her cheeks. Then, that means... Kazaku looked to Mary. It can't be. Mary held her chest and tried to calm herself. Yeah, the female warrior said, clearly having a good time. It means we're comrades. Oh, by the way, I'm Ko. Go is my honey. Your honey? Haruhiro felt dizzy enough to faint, for some reason. Yeah, kinda. Go may have felt a bit embarrassed, because he looked off in the opposite direction. It's true, Ko's my wife. And this here's our son. I'm Taro, the elf boy brusquely introduced himself. Wait, but... Ranta rudely looked back and forth from Go and Ko to Taro. As you've already inferred, we're not related by blood. Taro glared at Ranta. But Mom and Dad are my real parents. Did you want to say something about it? Nope. Not a thing. No. Ranta laughed, shaking his hands back and forth. Wouldn't dream of it. Gigihei? Nothing I'd want to say, you know? I mean, blood ties don't matter anyway. If anyone wants to obsess over that stuff, I'll kick their asses myself. Gahahaha. By the way, what is the name of the lady over there? Me? The beauty pointed to herself. Did you want to know something about me? No, well, like, if you're available, maybe. I'm an old woman compared to you, the beauty said. I'm 37. 37? Ranta shouted in disbelief. You don't look it. Not at all. No way. That's the biggest shock in my whole life. Besides, who cares how old you are? You're above and beyond something like that. Thanks. I'm Miho. Miho-san. And then marry me. I'm sorry, Miho said, placing a hand on Akira-san's arm. I intend to devote my life to this guy here. Gwarai. My love, struck down in an instant. Are these people going to be any use? The dwarf snorted. I can't imagine Soma choosing them. That's fair, Haruhiro thought. Especially Ranta. I mean, Ranta, I don't think I've been this embarrassed by you in a long time. I wish I could kill you and then die myself. Branken. Akira-san gave the dwarf a look of rebuke before turning a friendly gaze, or at least, one that felt that way, to Haruhiro. I had been looking forward to meeting all of you. After all, I knew Rock and Io and their groups before they joined, but you guys, I only first heard about through Soma. Yeah, I imagine you wouldn't have met us, said Haruhiro. I don't know what to say, but we haven't been volunteer soldiers long, and we have no accomplishments to speak of. You took down death spots, didn't you? Asked Akira-san. I hear you performed well at the offensive on Deadhead Watching Keep, too. Yeah, we did. Ranta puffed up his chest with pride. Young up-and-comers. That's us, I'd say. No denying we've got a real future ahead of us. Man. Haruhiro wanted to give Ranta a good, hard punch, but he couldn't muster up the energy to do it. Tokumune looked back and forth from Akira-san to Haruhiro. The Daybreakers, huh? I was surprised to hear Haruhiro was with them, but you're too, Akira-san? I feel like I heard from Kikuwa that the Rocks and Io's party joined up with him, though. They're, totally the strongest. Kikuwa was shaking his head around like he couldn't restrain himself any longer. Awesome. The legends, the original legends, Typhoon, the Rocks, and Io-sama's team. It's like a dream team or something? No, like a real dream. Like dream, dreamier, dreamiest? Oh! Right. Tada walked up, looking at Akira-san with appraising eyes. Hey, bud. Akira-san. Whoa, there. Haruhiro was startled. Did you just call him bud? Huh? What happened to meek and quiet mode? Kikuwa seems to be getting back into his groove, too. Wah. You know about the Dusk Realm? Tada didn't even make an attempt at being polite. We haven't been there yet. Akira-san didn't seem to mind. But we've heard of it. There's this crazy monster there, said Tada. So crazy it's even got me excited. It's a giant god. Oh! We're planning to invite Soma and the others along, but do you want a piece of the action, too? Asked Tada. He's inviting them. He's totally inviting them. Haruhiro pinched the bridge of his nose. He was starting to cry. What? What the hell, Tada? Don't pull this kind of crap. This is Akira-san, okay? You're asking the Akira-san if he wants a piece of the action, like some two-bit hoodlum. If you want to invite him, there've gotta be better ways. In how you say it. Besides, it's not okay. You wouldn't invite him, not normally. Well, Tada's never been normal. I knew that, but still. Isn't he a bit too abnormal? Let me think about it, said Akira-san. Man, you're such a nice guy, Akira-san. The way you're being considerate to him. You don't even get upset at someone as brazenly arrogant as Tada. You've got such character. It's wonderful. Haruhiro was moved. Huh, Tada snapped. So, why's Tada got a vein pulsing on his temple? Isn't that weird? Has he gone nuts, maybe? He's clearly not normal, right? I mean, it's totally weird, right? It's not something to snap over, is it? He's got nothing to be mad about, right? What's with that response? Tada snarled. Like you're trying to dodge the question. I hate it when people do that. Are you interested or not? Be clear about it. Oh, that's his issue? Haruhiro thought. I get what he's saying. I get it, but he doesn't need to snap over it. Haruhiro, his party, and even the other talkies were looking on in disbelief. As for Go, Keo, Miho, Branken, and Taro's reactions, he was too scared to check. Akira-san's face stiffened. Or rather, he had a serious expression. At last, Akira-san nodded slightly. Did he just bow his head? I'm sorry. You're right. That response I just gave you was close to being a mere formality. Yeah. Tada mussed his own hair. So, what's your response? It sounds interesting, but I can't decide on the spot. Why's that? Tada demanded. There are 2 reasons. First, I have no information on this giant god. That's what makes this interesting, isn't it? Tada shot back. You have a point there. Akira-san wore a strangely childish, mischievous, and surprisingly nasty smile. Here's the other one. We're meeting Soma tomorrow. That's just a matter of going to the Dusk Realm afterwards, you know. If we end up going, that's how it'll be, said Akira-san. You said you mean to invite Soma, right? Yeah. Then let me talk to Soma about it, too. I couldn't ask for a better outcome, Tada said. I can't reply immediately. Akira-san was still smiling. But I'm inclined to go. You seem like you'd be fun to fight shoulder to shoulder with. I'll guarantee that. Tada grinned and thrust his fist out. I only know you from rumors, but I know myself pretty well. Akira-san bumped fists with Tada. Let's make sure we bring Soma too. Fighting alongside him is stupidly fun. Ha ha ha. Tada clapped Akira-san on the shoulder. Oh ho! Ranta jumped up. Yahui! Kikoa jumped into the air, too, and let out a bizarre cry. It getting exciting now, yeah. Ana-san made V-signs with her hands and spun in circles. Nimurin was staring down at Branken for some reason. She probably thought he was cute. We did it, huh, Haruhiro? Tokumune flashed his white teeth and poked Haruhiro in the side. Haruhiro said nothing. For now, he just wanted to crouch down. He wanted to sit down. He wanted to sleep. He wanted to sleep for a long time. You can't give an immediate reply? No matter what you say, if you're saying you'll bring Soma along, Akira-san, you're already set on going, aren't you? I don't like it. I don't like it. I just don't get people who aren't normal, and I don't like it. 6. Priorities in life. Haruhiro's favorite kanji was the one for ground. He didn't like absolutely everything about it, but he liked most of the words and expressions it showed up in. To have one's feet firmly on the ground, for instance. He was more of a ground person than a sky person. He would rather be an insect crawling on the ground than a bird soaring through the sky. He didn't particularly like insects. He hated them, actually, but for all that people said, you're gross, or you're annoying, or don't come out, or I hope you go extinct, or insulted them, insects kept on stubbornly surviving. He respected them for that. That was why you could say this job perfectly suited Haruhiro. Beneath the many-colored sky of the Dusk Realm, Haruhiro held a shovel tightly. This goes without saying, but a shovel is a tool for digging holes and scooping dirt. He had been able to procure them at the Lonesome Field outpost. Haruhiro thought it suited him perfectly. He was a man who looked good with a shovel. That was cool. No, maybe it wasn't. He didn't need to be cool. Delm, Hell, N. Mimir enchanted as she used her staff to draw elemental sigils. Balk, Zell, Arv. When she did, the ground was blasted away and dirt and sand scattered all over, leaving a hole about 1.5 meters in diameter. There was the Arv magic spell, Blast. Maybe because she had just learned it, it wasn't as powerful as they had hoped. That had to do with the mage's basic skill, as well as her mastery, which was different for each school of magic. Mimirin, one more shot, go. Yeah, Ana-san hollered. With Ana-san egging her on, Mimirin let out a strange grunt of, MNNGH, then began casting her magic again. Delm, Hel, N, Volk, Zel, Arv, Dung. Delm, Hel, N, Volk, Zel, Arv, Zong. Delm, Hel, N, Volk, Zel, Arv, Bokong. Delm, Hel, N, Volk, Zel, Arv, Bugum. Delm, Hel, N. Halfway through the incantation, Mimirin bent over and rested her weight against her staff, which she thrust into the ground. Tired. You worked hard. Tokumune winked and flashed her a smile before lifting up a shovel. Okay, let's dig. The 5 holes Mimirin had opened in the ground with blast were spaced 10 meters apart in all directions. Haruhiro, his party, and all of the Takis except for Mimirin and Anasan, so 10 people in total, each took a shovel and began work on expanding the holes. They widened and connected the 5 holes, creating one much larger hole. What were they doing, you ask? Don't you get it? Zuoyu Oriri, Ranta yelled. Ranta, said Haruhiro. You're too noisy. Can't you just shut up and work? No can do. If I shut up, my spirit will break down out of boredom. Let it break, Kazaka muttered while swinging his shovel. What did you say? Kazaki, why Yua? Ranta screamed. You really are noisy, Mary said coldly, brushing her hair back behind her ear. Oh, I'm being noisy. Suri, okay? It's Fian. I'm used to being criticized like that. Me, I don't care a bit what you say about me. Hyuk, 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 hyuk. You're the worst, Shihora spat at him. Yay! I'm the worst. I'm the worst kind of human ever. Bugaboogaboo. Stupid Ranta. How about you stop running your mouth and start moving your hands, huh? Yum snapped. I am moving my hands. Look at them go. Looky, looky, looky. In fact, the more Ranta talked, the faster his shovel moved. It was pretty, no, very creepy. Ranta was harmful and his actions were toxic. Should I tell him off? Haruhiro thought it over for about 3 seconds. Nah, leave him. This was worthless, stupid, Ranta, the piece of crap. He'd argue back no matter what Haruhiro said. It would have the opposite effect. Following the most important principle in handling Ranta, he ignored him. I have enough trouble already just with the digging, Haruhiro told himself. It was heavy labor, but little by little, the hole was steadily expanding. It grew on him as he did it. Personally, he didn't mind work like this. But why are we doing this anyway? Yeah, you know what? Tada threw down his shovel and picked up his warhammer, which he had left sitting nearby. Chipping away at this is gonna take forever. Let's speed things up. Whoa, man, Kikoa cried. Tadachi, you're gonna go for it? What, Kikoa, are you trying to kiss up to him? Haruhiro thought. Well, he always seemed like the type. Heh, and we sat down. I'm bored. You know say you bored, yeah. Anasan smacked Inui upside the head. Not that it matters, but Anasan really doesn't participate when there's physical labor involved, does she? Haruhiro noted. Here goes. Tada did a run-up and then a somersault. Somersault bomb. Boom. Tada's warhammer exploded and left a huge dent in the ground. Looks like it'll need more than that, huh? Tokumune said teasingly. TCH. Tada clicked his tongue and got ready for another somersault bomb. I'll give it as many as it takes. Somersault bomb. Fine, just do whatever you want, Haruhiro thought. But what are we doing this for? Why? He understood, of course. He wouldn't be digging if he didn't know the reason. Digging suited Haruhiro's personality, but he didn't like it enough to make a hobby of it. Just after 6 o'clock on the day after they'd first met Akira-san, Go, Keo, Miho, Branken, and Taro, Haruhiro and the others had met up with Soma at the Lonesome Field outpost. It had been a bit hectic then. Soma was something of a star, after all, and not only with the volunteer soldiers. When the backstreet merchants and even the frontier army soldiers spotted Soma, "Hey, that's Soma, man, Soma. It really is Soma. Isn't that Soma? It's Soma. Whoa, Soma in the flesh." That's kind of how things went. Then there was Akira-san and his group on top of that, so it was a real mess. It was like a little, no, that's a lie, a huge festival was created on the spot. It was decided they'd go for food and some drinks in the back streets, but Haruhiro and the party were all so tense, they couldn't say much of anything. Even though it was so loud with all of the onlookers, even Ranta was as quiet as could be. Meanwhile, Soma and Akira-san's groups were both, with some exceptions, friendly and welcoming, so everyone got used to it eventually. "Where have you been? What have you been up to?" They got to the point where they would have been able to ask those questions. Until the talkies barged in, that was. "Hey, Soma." Tokumune was easygoing. "Yo." Tada was brusque. "Heh, and we made no sense. Here's Anna-san, yeah." Anna-san was her usual Anna-san self. "Hey." Nimuran waved one hand. "Heya, heya, heya." Kikuwa was the only one whose voice cracked a little. When the talkies came in making a racket, Akira-san looked amused. He said, "Oh, yeah, come to think of it," and brought up that topic. "I hear there's something interesting going on in the Dusk Realm that Haruhiro-kun, Tokumune-kun, and their group found a little while back." Soma chewed his meat for a while, then swallowed. "Something interesting?" he responded. "I'd like to hear what it is." "How about it?" Akira-san asked. "Why don't we all go check it out together?" "Let's." That was fast. Haruhiro murmured under his breath without meaning to. Soma's eyes opened wide with surprise, and he looked at Haruhiro. "What was fast?" "Nothing," Haruhiro said, flustered. Let's see. How fast you decided, how instantly." "It's a real problem," Lilia said with a look of exasperation on her nonetheless all too beautiful face. "I know I always say this, but please consider your current position and act with prudence, Soma. You are too impulsive at times." "Ooh, she's mad." Shima gave a sexy little laugh. "Well, yeah." Komori rubbed his cheek. He had been clean-shaven the last time they'd met, but now his beard had grown a fair bit. It matched his dreadlocks well. "Still, that does work in our favor sometimes." "It's because he's an idiot," Pingo said, narrowing his eyes in a way that didn't suit his childlike face. "Yohei?" Poor thought resembles rest, and so an idiot's thoughts seem to be at rest. In the end, he's an idiot, so it's pointless for him to think. There's no medicine to cure stupidity. I wish there was a cure. Soma looked down, as if in thought, then his head snapped back up with a sudden realization. "I'm an idiot? Did you think you weren't?" Pingo asked. "Yuhihei?" "Pingo." Lilia gave him the side-eye. "You're going too far. We elves have a saying, be courteous even among close friends and—" "Well, I don't see the harm, Lilia," Soma said placatingly. Lilia's cheeks burned crimson with anger. "Who do you think I'm saying this for?" "Who?" "Huh. That's, be basically." The way Lilia fidgeted around was incredibly cute. It was a salve for sore eyes, but it didn't comfort Haruhiro's heart. That was because Tokumune's scheme had succeeded. Just succeeded? No, it had found an unbelievably great success. Soma, Akira-san, and the Daybreakers were all going to invade the Dusk Realm, it seemed. The rumors raced around the lonesome field outpost, spreading at an incredible speed. Me too. Me too. People hastened to join. Incredibly, by the end of that night, messengers from 1-on-1, Max of Iron Knuckle, and Red Devil, Ducky of the Berserkers arrived. On the next morning, as they were preparing to depart, Shinohara of Orion came to meet with Soma directly. Now that things had become such a big deal, "Nah, I think we're gonna sit this one out," was something Haruhiro didn't have the guts to say. After all, Soma of the Daybreakers was saying he was going to do it. Haruhiro was part of the Daybreakers, the clan Soma had founded. Even if they were at the very bottom, they were comrades. He couldn't say it. Couldn't say, "No way. We can't do it." It would be pathetic, embarrassing, and he would disappoint Soma and the others. He didn't want them to look down on him. Ignoring the talkies for the moment, if Soma's party, Akira-san's party, Iron Knuckle, the Berserkers, and Orion were all taking part, it might not be that dangerous for them after all. It was hard to deny that this thought had begun to take root in Haruhiro's mind. Well, I'm curious too. It would be a lie to say I'm not. When not only the current and former strongest volunteer soldiers, but also a number of famous clans gathered, what would happen? How would they fight? What sort of scenes would unfold there? Just how much higher of a level were all of them on? Yeah, I want to see that. If we could just watch, honestly, I'd give anything to see it. It'd be a waste not to. However, Haruhiro and the others just so happened to be in the Daybreakers. They couldn't get away with just watching. They'd need to do something. He couldn't ask for them to be left out because they were pitifully weak, no matter how much he might have wanted to. But what can we do? At 10 o'clock in the morning, a total of 24 people entered the Dusk Realm, 18 members of the Daybreakers, Soma's party, Akira-san's party, and Haruhiro's party, plus the talkies. While standing on the initial hill and looking to the giant god and that mysterious, massive white creature, Haruhiro thought about the situation. No, he had been thinking for a while now. Before long, Iron Knuckle, the Berserkers, and Orion would catch up with them. When that happened, these guys might start the fight right away. One of the hunting skills Yum had acquired had given him the hint he needed. Pit trap. Haruhiro worked up his courage, as if he were about to jump off the stage at Kayamizu. What's a Kayamizu again? He wondered, as he said, how about we lay a trap? Would that be a good idea? Maybe? I think it might be. Like, "Hi there, free audiobook here. Hope you are enjoying the book. If you want to finish this book, please check out our Patreon. We have a lot more books there, and it's a great way to help us do what we do. Thank you."